the Republican leader and I have come to an arrangement. We will vote today to reopen the government, to continue negotiating a global agreement, with the commitment that, if an agreement isn't reached by February the 8th, the Senate will immediately proceed to consideration of legislation dealing with DACA. The process will be neutral and fair to all sides.
You're listening to The Devil's Advocate, where we talk about news and current events. I'm your host, Brandon Condict.
And I'm also your host, Mitchell Hernandez. Our goal at The Devil's Advocate is to provoke thought by introducing viewpoints and information that isn't readily available in the mainstream media.
It's in truth a conversation where an independent liberal, like myself,
and an independent conservative, like myself, can share different viewpoints without the typical disdain for one another we see all too often in politics. So with that, let's get started.
So Democrats get the guarantee that there will be an immigration debate in the Senate unfolding over the next few weeks. Republicans get to fund the government beyond the State of the Union. Democrats have previously been pushing for just a couple days of funding to continue talks over immigration. But it does set up a very concentrated series of deadlines in early February on legislation, so we could very well be revisiting this conversation again. On the House side, a vote is expected later this afternoon. The House Republican Conference passed this without any Democratic votes last week, so that could very well be the scenario that we see repeat itself today. But that immigration debate is going to heat up when the policies begin taking more shape as these bipartisan, bicameral talks get back underway once the government is refunded.
Alrighty, and we are back. Frank is actually taking the week off this week. He had his sister gave birth a couple days ago, and so he is doing some family things with his new nephew. So congratulations to Frank,
yes,
and all that good stuff. We have got, and I guess that should bring me to my thing too. You remember that when we started the show about a year ago, I was really, really close to expecting my first child. Well, a year later, I am still really close to expecting my second child. So
this will be an annual thing until he has like 10 kids.
Right, or until we hit 1 million subscribers. So come on, guys.
There we
go. Save my budget. No, so the reason I'm bringing that up though is because our due date is in early to mid March, like the first week and a half of March, and I don't know, these things aren't necessarily schedulable, so there could be a week coming up in the next few, where we have an unexpected missed episode, and that's
just the way it goes.
Yeah, that's probably gonna happen because even if I just took the week off, I don't know that I'd have time to sit down and edit it while I'm doing all that stuff, and I don't think that should be my first priority. So just know that if we miss an episode coming up here in the next 5-6 weeks, that's probably what happened, and then I'm sure that'll be confirmed shortly thereafter. So yeah, there's that. We have some corrections to make this week.
Yep, I gotta make one for Claire McCaskill, who I threw under the fucking bus.
Yeah, you did.
And put
Why
that
is it
bus
always
in reverse
you making
and put
corrections,
it in forward.
Mitch? Is it because you're always wrong?
No, it's because I correct myself. All you guys just we'll edit it out.
yeah. No, that's true. I'm actually gonna come clean here. I'm just not gonna apologize. Ask Alabama. So
there we go.
But yeah, you did throw her under the bus, and
I did. What happened was I looked at a list of the people who and how they voted on the CR, and it didn't have her listed as saying is voting yes for it. So I had assumed she voted no with most of the other Democrats. Later they updated it, and I saw that they had corrected it and everything like that. So that sucked. I kind of went into it going, this fucking, God damn it, she didn't fucking do it.
Yeah.
and it wasn't true. So seeing as that was a stickler issue for me, because as I stated during the segment, I think that if you are in government and that's one of your biggest concerns, you have to pass a budget. You need to fund the government. You're in the government. And if you vote to not fund the government over a non-budgetary issue, to me, that is a non-starter. That's something where I think that you've now lost your privilege of your salary and your government, your government position. But seeing as she did, and I actually called in. I don't know if I'm sure I said that during the segment, but I had called in and let them know, hey, she needs to vote yes on this. And obviously, because of how much I mentioned our name and have all the clout that we carry, she immediately changed her her position.
Right.
I like to think. I don't know if that's true, but that could
They're
be fake
not
news.
even getting paid for advertisers yet. I should worry.
That's right. No, so I switched back my position now that I've got the correct information, and as long as nothing changes, I fully intend to vote for Claire McCaskill. An R is voting for a D come the midterms.
I do see a lot of people online when it comes to Claire McCaskill talking about how, oh, this is election year politics. I don't think it is, though. Not specific things. I truly believe that her position on net neutrality was the popular 95% of the country's opinion on net neutrality. I believe that was the real position she took. I also think, too, I know that the last time the government shut down, when Ted Cruz shut it down, that she fought for the military to not lose their paychecks.
She's on I can't remember what committee she's on, but she's on a military committee, and she's always done a great job for that.
Yeah, the military is actually very important to her, and that's not election year politics. And you notice too, when she voted to keep the government open, and when it did shut down for all 3 hours that it was shut down, she says she would donate her salary to military charities and whatnot. So I think that the military,
and she tried to continue funding the military. She tried to separate that from the rest of the budget bill and say, let's just pass this. Now a lot of Democratic and liberal media was using that to kind of show Mitch McConnell he voted no on it, and he did shoot that down.
But that was a procedural thing, wasn't it?
Well, if you listen to the full comments, no, he could have. He just said, I don't want to start doing this. I don't want to start breaking the budget down until we absolutely have to. It's only been a day. Let's give it a few days to see if we can come to a full agreement before we start doing, until we start butchering it and then picking and choosing what we want to fund. Let's try to get it all done. And so that was his speech. But then he said, so I vote no to bringing up a resolution to only fund the military. And that's what they used. They used that segment without playing the rest of the explanation for why. So, but again, commendable to Claire McCaskill for putting that priority first. And I peeked for coming forward and saying, well, let's at least get this done because this is what we need to do. So again, it's hard for me to see a scenario right now where I don't vote for her. I firmly believe that people vote for their interest, and I firmly believe that she, even though she's a Democrat, I think she's learned her lessons in the past. Like a while there under Obama, she was just kind of going with whatever the Democrats were doing. I think she's kind of gone away from that here lately. So this has turned into a big plug for Claire McCaskill. But
I would say that her turning away from that, seemingly, I think that could play something into election year politics to some degree.
Well, it's been over about 2.5 years though, so I mean it's been a steady transition.
Yeah, but all you have to do, if your seat's up, all you have to do is look at how much Trump won your state or lost your state by to know how you have to appeal to people.
But again, she was doing this for the past 2.5 years, so it was well beyond. I mean, that's when she was doing this whenever everyone was saying Trump was going to lose, and she was still like, I don't know. I think I'm going to start moving in this direction.
No,
I don't know the other guys.
Disagree with you.
We'll have to see when it gets down to the nitty gritty. It's the end of January, so it's fucking coming.
I'm surprised that Josh Hawley is not more out there. I know that it's, we've talked about as an incumbent in any position, whether you're talking about Congress or the White House or whatever. You have already more exposure. You already have a record, so it's easier to raise money and it's easier to do whatever. But I would think that the person that was challenging her, who is also the Attorney General of Missouri,
Right.
he's got some clout, he's got some name recognition. I would think he would already be seen a lot more. I would not think that it's smart to let her get 130 town halls deep into campaigning without actually showing up and saying something. So
I think he's doing taking his position and viewing himself as an incumbent and saying it's Missouri, they'll vote red, and I think that's a mistake because, like I said, I'm pretty Republican. I'm not conservative, but I'm Republican. I believe in the Republican principles, and I typically have more in common with the Republican candidates. She's already won me, so he needs to probably come forward and say, no, this is what I'm going to do differently. And if he is, because he might just not have anything to contrast against her because she's doing shit that I like. So he might be wanting to do me the same things too and just saying, well, we'll just save it for, the midterm when it actually gets down to it. They're going to have debates and stuff, so we'll see how it all goes.
We'll see. But I think that was did we have any other corrections? The only other correction and it's not even a correction, it was a correction in the last episode that I shouldn't have made if I would have just kept my prediction that the shutdown was going to end before the episode came out. That would have been, I think
your original thing was before Monday.
What? Yeah,
your original prediction was before Monday.
But I'm still going to argue that, all they did was shut the government down until lunch. Nothing happened. The government shut down on Friday at 5 and then lost funding at midnight and then reopened at, 1 on Monday. Everybody had a half day. Let's not, and here's the thing. Well,
since I put it on the board, let's, obviously we're moving into the first segment, which is Shutdown Part 2. But
right. And
looking at the board and what I said.
DACA fight.
Yeah, exactly. I said as soon as it's either going to be 10 days or when the first polling comes out, and that's exactly what happened. The first polling came out. Independents were clearly against shutting down the government to hold out for DACA, and immediately the Democrats were like, just kidding.
Right.
And they folded.
But here's the problem I have with the board. I don't like you earmarking predictions on top of each other. When you're here's what's going to happen. Either we're going to go to nuclear war or we're not. Well, then yes, you're probably right. That's how I'm going to start making my predictions from now on.
Well, I'm saying, like I said, it was either 10 days or the first poll. And again, as soon as they started publishing the polls, that's when they folded. So
yeah, well, and I think that here's the thing that aggravates me. It was a stupid move to do on the Democrats' part, and if you're gonna do it, at least be convicted enough to do it. Don't. I agree that it was probably the best. It would have been the best case scenario would have been, and what should have happened was they should have cut a damn deal. There's no reason that they didn't cut a deal before the government shut down. So there should have never been a shutdown. But if you're gonna do it, I don't know. I just think Democrats put themselves in a lose-lose position because they shut it down to appease the far left part of their party, and then when they reopened it at tea time, the left was pissed. Well, you just sold us out, and it was well, what? Why did you do that to yourself? You backed yourself into a corner, and
I think they really thought. I mean,
I still believe that what I said last week, that Trump was the reason for the breakdown of negotiations. And
it's hard to say that, though, because he stepped back. He got away from it. That's what they kept saying. He's not even trying to negotiate whatnot. He just let the moderates do it. The moderates are the ones that saved the deal. They came in, Flake. What was was it Patty Murphy? I can't remember if she was involved or not. She's a Democrat that's big economist and things like that. But they're the ones who really saved the deal. And correct me, and I apologize if it wasn't Patty Murphy. It might have been somebody else from the Democratic side that's a moderate. but they're the ones who saved it. Trump backed away.
You can correct yourself next week. That's typical.
Right. But I'm probably not going to look it up, just to be honest. So if someone else out there is going to look it up, go for it. But Trump backed away. And I think that one of the biggest things that it's hard to say, well, it's Trump's fault or it's the Republicans' fault. I saw a thing that was...
I think that my point was just that, like, the initial breakdown, here's where I think, and I still maintain that it was Trump's fault for bringing General Kelly and Stephen Miller and is his name David
Stephen
Perdue?
Miller,
I think.
Absolutely, but
like they
General
should
Kelly
not
should be.
They
in
should
that
not
room.
have been brought into the negotiation unless it was known up front. That's where I think that the breakdown happened, is that they were never part of the negotiations. It was always the bipartisan team of 6, and they had talked to Trump 2 hours before going into that meeting, and then all of a sudden these 3 guys are there, and they were there literally to steamroll it.
Yeah.
I think that's where I go, okay, that was a bad play on Trump's part by not allowing those 6 senators to know that Kelly and Miller and friends were going to be there. That was the bad play. Now,
it worked out for him.
I mean, sure, yeah, absolutely. The ball is totally in the Republicans' court right now, and we saw that because of those polls that came out, that it just wasn't polling with independents. And
right. Well, it came out, there was a piece of market, not like marketing, but it was something that you put out on Facebook and whatnot that I thought really started striking a chord with people when I was looking at the comments, which was the Democrats are saying that it's the Republicans that are shutting down the government, but 93% of Republicans have voted yes, where 90% of Democrats have voted no. Who's really responsible for the shutdown? And I was like, oh, shit. And, it's kind of hard to argue against that. And then especially when I know a lot of Democrats, or they call themselves independents, and that's fine. They typically tend to lean Democratic, but even they were like, no, we shouldn't be shutting down the government for illegal immigrants. They're illegal. It's okay to want to get a pathway to citizenship. It's okay to do that, but to hurt full Americans for illegal immigrants is not something that we are going to stand behind.
Well, and let's be real. As we discussed it, the 3 of us last week, that they didn't shut the government down for illegal immigration. They shut the government down for political leverage. That's what they thought they were doing. It was a political move. It wasn't a compassionate move. Like, they can spin it that way all they want, but this was a House of Cards moment that just blew up in their face because they I'm not saying
what did Schumer
government
give the last time?
moment.
Yeah, because this was something that Schumer had basically puppeteered and mastered.
I was gonna jump
he
through
gave
the
them
phone
something.
and punch you in the face if you would have said Schumer shutdown. Like
hashtag Schumer shutdown.
I hate those. I was so mad when that started happening.
Hashtag Trump shutdown. It's like, dude, that doesn't even rhyme. It's not going to stick. But...
right? There's no way. Just leave the nicknames to the one guy who's like, that's one thing I have faith in Donald Trump on. Like, you're gonna get a good zinger. You are a celebrity, so
he's just good at that. He's just good at that shit. No, but something happened earlier in the year, and I'm blanking on it, where it basically was like, we're going to give Trump what he wants right now, and then we're going to renegotiate this in December. And we were like, and even Democrats were like, Republicans were like, this is fuck, because this hands all of the power to Chuck Schumer. That's what he had hoped on. Chuck Schumer had hoped that he was going to be given this power, and then it just didn't come to fruition. And then they kicked the can down to, late mid-January. And then again, they're kicking it down again. But this
February
has to be solved.
Now.
Yeah, it's got to be solved. And if they can't, and I guess so, let's go into.
Do you want to get predictions on how I think this will play out in the end?
Well, let's go to the new. Let's get to the new plan now, because they've come out with Trump has come out with an olive branch of sorts, which no one's calling it that, but basically his new thing where he's saying, "This is what I want. Was it $25 billion for the wall?" Mm-hmm. We're going to end chain migration, and we're going to switch over to a merit-based Canadian system. There's that plug. And
I want to point out too that chain migration is not, that's not the name of the system.
No, it's just what people call it. It's called family-based.
It's kind of like anchor baby. It's a term that somebody coined for a purpose. and you
Yeah.
can decide for yourself what that purpose is. But like,
it sounds
it's called
fine to me.
it's called
chain-
immigration, not chain migration.
Well, no, there's it's not just immigration. It's
That's our
family-based
system.
Again, but no, that particular aspect of it is family-based incentive.
Oh,
So
I
what
get it. I know,
Yeah,
but what I'm saying is like that's the immigration system. Chain migration is not a term that actually means anything except for the people who are saying it and who know
Yeah.
what they mean by it.
Again, it's kind of like if for all those D&D players and RPG rollers out there, chain lightning. You get one, you get a whole bunch of them. That's the same way that this works.
That was even too nerdy for me. I did not play long enough.
Oh my God, what do? You didn't play Diablo 2? You didn't ever shoot in chain lightning? You shoot
No.
chain lightning at one dude and it ends up hitting 3 or 4 people. That's kind of how this that's why they call it chain migration,
I
because you
think
bring
that-
one person in and then he's got family members and he brings all of them in. And it incentivizes them over everybody else. That's why they call it that.
Right.
So-
No, I get it. I just pointing out that like that's not like I get why it is, but it's not
not the
a-
official title.
Right. There's no definition to chain migration other than the popular definition. That
Well, now that I've explained it, everyone will know.
everyone will know.
So
And
it's
the
fine.
more you know.
The knowledge is power. So they did that, or that's what Trump wants. And then to get the wall, to get the new immigration merit-based Canadian system, and to stop chain migration, he was going to give protected status to 1.8 million DACA recipients with a 10 to 12 year path to citizenship.
Yeah, I think that's what the proposal was.
Which is
or
kinda
that's what
fucked
the
up. I
framework
don't-
said.
If I was Democrats, I would shoot for 7 years, because I think it's 7 years now to come in legally. It takes about 7 years. So I feel like it should be a level playing field. So like, but again, they do have protected status. So it's a little different. They're still already in the country. So maybe that's why they're structuring it to be like, all right, let's get the other guys who are waiting to come in first. Then we'll get these guys who are already here, but protected.
Right.
So to me, that was a good plan. And Democrats have already just shat all over it. They've
Why
called
did
it a
Nancy
non-starter.
Nancy Pelosi said that it was a plan to make America white again. Where does she get that
Yeah.
basis? Like what?
Because the merit-based system, typically the people that you're going to be bringing in are from Europe, are from white European countries that are economically more stable than, say, Mexico, which just got upgraded to the most violent country in the world, and these other countries that we typically bring people in from. We're bringing in a lot of people that are low income, that are, they have a large family members. That's the people we're bringing in now. And if we switch it over to a merit-based system, we're going to be bringing in people. Again, it prioritizes people who have college degrees and who have own businesses. And that typically tends to fall in these white European countries. So, and of course, in India. India is a huge, very big as well. So it's not entirely right. And that's why I had an article pulled up here that U.S. Senator Joe Manchin, how do you say his name?
It's Manchin.
Manchin. Yeah.
Yeah.
He came out and he's criticizing Nancy Pelosi for calling
I saw that.
Make
I actually
America white again.
Yeah, I watched that. Interview. I think it was with Jake Tapper. Shortly
he
before
said we don't need
got
that type of rhetoric on either side from Nancy,
Right.
Paul Ryan, or anybody. So
Joe Manchin, though, just keep in mind too. Joe Manchin is one of the Democrats that voted to keep the government open, and there is something to be said about the fact that this is an election year. I don't want to I'm giving McCaskill a pass on that with some of the things like the military and net neutrality and whatnot. But there is a reason that 5 Democrats in Trump-won states voted against the government shutdown. And likewise, I believe it was 5 Republicans in Hillary-won states voted for the shutdown. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't give any credence to what Joe Manchin is saying. But what I am saying is that always has to play in the back of your mind that take everything with a grain of salt, because
he's positioning.
if he
I think
says
he's right,
it now,
though. I think that it isn't helpful.
oh no, I think I agree. Here's accountability, I think, is what I'm looking at here. So if he says it's not helpful now, and then he wins re-election in November, and then he jumps on Nancy Pelosi's bandwagon, then it's something where I want to remember back to this moment where Joe Manchin was saying some bullshit because he wanted to get elected, you know, and I'm not saying that's what he's doing. I'm just saying when it comes to congressmen this year saying things, you have to kind of take everything with a grain of salt because, like, there could be a deeper play here.
Right. And again, we'll see. Nancy Pelosi doesn't have a lot of. She obviously got a decent amount of support, but there has been, you know, attempts to overthrow her recently in the
I wish
Democratic
they'd be
Party.
successful.
Yeah, well, she's really good at raising money, but she's also very ineffective at using that money. So it's a thin line. We like money, but she's not getting it. We're not getting anything for it.
Right.
So again, it comes down to all of that. But yeah, Democrats have basically, and some Republicans too. I mean, I know Donald Trump said that they would accept this. There is some on the far right that are saying it's amnesty, and it is, but go fuck yourself. Who cares? Like,
well, and like I do think that that in some sense, like the moral high ground argument and the compassionate argument isn't always worth throwing out the window. And I think here, when you use the argument that, like, all right, guys, here's the result of us not fixing this. People are going to get deported to a country they've never been to. Like,
and again, we shouldn't want to do that. But again, we shouldn't just do that and then not fix anything else. To me,
no, I get it. That's fine.
Yeah,
but that's
important.
why
the biggest thing to me is the immigration system that needs to be fixed. And going to the merit
why
system
they have to
makes
fix,
sense.
or that's why they have to cut a deal. Is because because that plays into it, and it has to play into it. Like, yeah, you can have the compassionate moral high ground aspect. That can't be all. You have to have reform, and you have to but like, so they need to make a deal on this. It can't
and
be.
I think that was a good deal that Trump put forward. I thought that was pretty legit, but Democrats don't like it because, again, typically the people they're bringing in now go towards the Democratic base. They show up to the country, they get brought in, they don't have anything.
So Democrats want more, and here's where I think the Democrats could get more. I agree that they should shoot for, like, I think they could shoot for 7 years if they wanted to, and make that argument that, or whatever the current system is. And
that would be a good play in my book.
So, and I think that they could get 1.8 to 3 million. Probably.
I think that would be I do not agree with that one bit. I think that's going to kill it beyond anything else, and it's just going to set themselves up for failure. Because, again, people like DACA, but 3 million is a huge number. I mean, what was that? They constantly say that we've got 12 million illegal immigrants in there, and this and that and the other. So take 3 of that. That's a huge percentage of it. You know what I mean? It's just
I get it. Yeah, no, I do.
Donald Trump's already getting flack for increasing. They originally wanted 700,000. So to me, it's that guy who comes in. It's like
he originally wanted 18 million or billion.
Yeah, but that's not an equal portion. To go from 18 billion to 25 billion is only 7 billion more. They doubled their. He's already given a plan that doubles their original asking of 700,000.
But you're talking about. Here's what I'm saying though. That's fine, but he's also getting a bunch of stuff on, like, they're both getting immigration reform. So you don't want to throw that just to Republicans, but it is the Republican talking point. It is the Republican play. And so in that way, it benefits them more, especially when you consider that Democrats do want the quote unquote chain migration, because it does play to their base. So here's what I'm saying. You're saying 7 billion more for the wall than what was initially proposed, and I'm saying 1.2 for. Or no, I'm not at all. I'm saying 120. Go on. Whatever. They should shoot for 3 million if they think they can get it. If it kills the deal, then I don't want it. Like, find a middle ground.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot of other people who say I don't want
a deal here. Right. I want a deal here that everybody can walk away from and go, okay.
Yeah. 1
fine.
point,
Like, let's move on to infrastructure.
1.8 million, in my opinion, is huge, and that's a huge win for Democrats if they'll just take yes for an answer and go with it. First off, Democrats,
You can't. That's not going to play 2 weeks in a row. bro.
I'm serious. I mean,
Donald Trump just can't take yes for an answer.
yeah, well, that didn't work because
I don't know why Chuck Schumer just got Southern.
Yeah, well,
but he did.
the reason why that didn't work is because they were all voting no. It's like, wait, he won't take yes for an answer, but everyone else was voting yes except for Chuck Schumer. So it's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know, buddy.
Right.
That doesn't really make sense. But regardless, again, walking into this, I think the Democrats are going to talk tough. They're going to have to sit, that's what they're doing right now. They're sitting there and saying, like, no, this is a non-starter, and it's make America white again, because America is definitely not white, and it doesn't make any damn sense to me that would be their play. Don't piss off white people, because guess what? White people are still the majority. So if you keep pissing them off, you're not going to do well. So, and
Right.
with independence as well, people don't like race-driven politics. It's not fun for anybody. So when you make it about that, when Nancy Pelosi,
you know that both sides do it 100%.
Yeah, they do,
Like,
but it's
if
not
you
as
listen-
effective as they think it
If you listen
is.
to conservative, no, it's not. But if you listen to conservative radio, because you always hear the argument that, like, oh, the mainstream media, which means liberal media,
because it typically
is race baiting again. They're race baiting again. Well, by saying that on your show 14 times an hour, you are also race baiting. You are trying to get your people pissed off about something that may or may not actually be the way that you're portraying.
Right, exactly.
So, when we watch Orlando Castile get shot in his car by a cop, and Sean Hannity comes on and is like, well, they're race baiting. Like, no, you're race baiting. That was fucked up. And
Yeah,
that was not justice.
Right.
And you're telling your people to be mad at the media for calling attention to an injustice that we just watched on Facebook.
Now, I've
So,
also
like,
seen the opposite.
They both race bait.
Exactly. So again, I think that's a bad play, and I'm glad that Mr. Manchin, fucking awesome name, Mr. fucking Manchin, came out and was like, yeah, don't do that, because that's not helpful. It's not going to be a good thing to do. So I think the Democrats are going to talk tough, because that's just what they're going to do. But when it comes down to it, people aren't going to forget. It's not like it's going to come out to a different outcome. People did not want the government to be shut down over.
Yeah, but I don't think it's gonna, because I've made that argument with you this week on the phone several times, and I because here's why. When you look at Ted Cruz's 16-day shutdown,
Yep.
like, that's a lot easier to remember than the one that ended at noon.
Right.
Like, they did shut down the government, but they didn't shut down the government. We know people who work with the government
that didn't work
who
didn't work for Ted
who on
Cruz.
Sunday were like, well, this sucks because my clients aren't going to work tomorrow. And then the next morning they were like, well, all right, see you at work.
Right.
Like, that nothing happened here. So I think that it was a stupid move
I don't
by
understand
the
how you
Democrats
would
to
think there'd
shut
be a
down the
different
government.
outcome, though. Even though it was short, the whole reason it was short was because independents weren't on board. I don't imagine a scenario
Right.
where a month down the road or 2 weeks down the road, whatever it is, they're suddenly on board now. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No. I'm not saying that they should shut down the government again. They're not going to shut down the government again, and
Well,
it was
they might.
stupid for them to do it. But what I'm saying is, come midterms, people aren't going to look back and be like, well, remember when the Democrats shut down the government? Because they didn't. They shut it down for a weekend that it was closed.
Right. That's fine. But again, if they try to hold strong like they're saying they're going to do,
Yeah, I don't think they will. But I
no one
think
thought
that
they
they'll
were
probably
this time
get
either. I think that they were like, oh, there's a 60% chance that this isn't going to happen. And I was like, you guys are crazy. Of course it's going to happen. And
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was definitely a possibility, and here's what I think is safe to say going forward. People don't like the government being shut
Right.
down. So whoever does it is going to take the blame, whether it's Ted Cruz or Chuck Schumer or whoever it is down the line.
Ted
Once
Cruz
you
lost
start threatening,
evangelicals in the general, so it didn't work for him. Like,
no, it didn't. And Ted Cruz did it a little bit. To me, his green eggs and ham bullshit, that was
dumb.
shutdown related, right?
Yeah,
that
that
wasn't
was
just a
him.
filibuster. Like, that was
I thought that's what
Yeah.
he was doing. He was filibustering so that it would shut down. Man, I can't.
right.
I'd have to
So-
look back because I can't remember how it all went down. I just remember the green and eggs and fucking shitty moment.
Yeah. So but what I'm saying is that when it comes to voting, I think still 8 months from now or a year from now or 2 years from now, when we talk government shutdown, we'll be like, yeah, remember that stunt that the Democrats pulled? But we'll remember Ted Cruz's government shutdown. That was a real government shutdown.
Right.
That was, this wasn't like, this was nothing. It was a stupid play, and I think that after they made the bad move, Chuck Schumer couldn't have done anything more right for the Democrats than to be like, oh, we fucked up, like, we need to get out of this.
Right. It's unfortunate for him though, because this was his big play. This is what he has been building up to all year, is being able to do this, and this was the big thing that the base was telling him: get DACA passed. We want this. And again, when you look at the polling data, 80% of Democrats were on board with the shutdown. They thought that was perfect. It's just it was Republicans who were like 90% against it, and independents who were 65% against it. So that's why it didn't work, But again, Democrats are loving it. So this was his big thing, and I think that if he's offered 1.8 million DACA recipients for protected status and a pathway to citizenship, amnesty, and he can get that from the Republicans, he's a fucking idiot if he doesn't do it. And
yeah, it depends. Like, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know, though, because, like, you've seen political stunts that come out of nowhere before. Trump does them every 4 hours.
We saw the Democrats getting pissed off, but again, it was the same thing with Republicans bitching and bitching about Obamacare, and when they finally got a chance to get rid of it, they didn't fucking do it.
Yeah, but here's what I'm saying. If they get to a situation where the Democrats are trying to get more than 1.8 or whatever they're trying to get more of, if they're trying to get more out of the
what
deal,
they want is they want to keep chain migration.
They're not gonna.
That's what they want.
They're not going. Okay, but they're probably not going to get that. And if they try to hold up DACA because they're trying to get more, and they're faced with another government shutdown, they're not going to shut it down again. So then you have to assume they'll cave and they'll pass a 2-year budget or whatever.
Yeah.
If DACA then dies as a result of them not getting more, I still don't think that they'll get the blame for that, because Republicans do run the government. And yeah, Democrats need to get 60 votes, but if they can form an argument that plays enough with both Democrats and independents, and they go, look, we were trying to cut a deal, and all we wanted was this. And if they have a good explanation, if it's bullshit, it's not going to work. But if they have a legit something that they can sell and be like, look, we were going to give him full funding for the wall. We were going to do this. This is the only extra piece we wanted. And Republicans wouldn't let it happen. Then I don't think DACA's failure in that instance would come back and hurt the Democrats. I think it would hurt the Republicans for not being, because basically Chuck Schumer dropped the ball, and it is now back in the Republicans' court. But if the Republicans don't pass DACA, if something holds it up and it doesn't get passed, it is like popular with like 90% of the country across the board, Republicans, Democrats, and independents.
Right.
So they could fuck it up. I don't think they will.
Here's why I think
they'll get a deal done.
Here's why I think that is a very real chance that Democrats could fuck this up again, and it'll end up hurting them more so. So the thing, yes, you're right that people want DACA to be passed, but the problem is that Democrats are attaching it to shit that they don't need to attach it to. So it's Democrats who are making that play, saying, you want to get a budget, you've got to pass DACA. And people, the independents have shown they're not down for that. So if Chuck Schumer comes down to it again, where he shuts down the government again, and again, everyone keeps saying that's not going to happen, that's not going to happen. It could fucking happen. They could do it again.
It could.
And then I think that would really backfire against him. And then it would, because again, you can sit there and say as much as you want. And I know that every single comment when the shutdown was happening on MSNBC and all the other liberal outlets, all of it was, that Republicans run the government. It's a poor argument, because all you have to do is say 60 votes. And on top of that, all you have to do is say, look, see this? It says no.
Yeah, but
showing that they're voting no is more powerful.
But that wasn't my scenario. That wasn't my scenario. What I said was that Democrats will cave, and they're not going to shut down the government. In my opinion, they could. You're right. But what I
wouldn't
believe
be
will
surprised.
happen is, even if they don't get an agreement on DACA, they would still pass a budget and then keep DACA separate. if in that instance DACA fails, Democrats won't get the blame for that because Democrats were willing to shut down the government over DACA. That people know that it is important to Democrats, and you and I can go on for 45 minutes or whatever about why it's important to them. I don't think we're wrong on that, but if they pass a budget and they do a DACA thing separately and then it fails, I don't see how that argument doesn't work of, well, Republicans are in control of the government. Republicans got their budget, and then Republicans wouldn't bend on this in negotiations, so that's why DACA didn't happen.
I don't think that's going to happen, though. Again,
I don't think it will either. I think they'll cut a deal. I really do. But
if they're smart, they will. And I think they'll take the deal that's put in front of them because it's a pretty damn good deal. Well, I don't think that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have any wiggle room here. I just don't think they have any type of power. But we'll see what they do. They're talking tough now, and I think that they'll have to cave. Otherwise,
well, the power, if they wanted to be dicks, the power is what I just proposed.
What? Giving them the
detach it from the budget, pass the budget, and then see what happens.
Yeah.
Because if it fails, Democrats aren't going to get the blame for that.
Yeah, that's fine. But again, I don't know how many people, if they come down to it, are going to say like, oh, well, now that if they won't pass DACA, I'm going to vote all the Republicans out. I don't think people care enough about it. If you ask them casually, do you want DACA to pass? They say yes. But if you say, hey, do you want to lose anything for it? They say no.
Yeah, but there is something... I think there is something to be said about that's where I think that compassionate moral high ground argument does actually come into play. When you start painting it that these are the personal stories, and you know that the media would absolutely put those up every single day. This is the guy in Maplewood who's taken sanctuary in a church, and he got deported to a country he's never been to because, like, I think that will play with people. I don't think people, even though they're worried about their own self-interest more than anything else, I don't think people like to see bad things happen.
No, they don't. And yeah, I think that independence would be on, if it was detached from anything else, yeah, I think independence would go towards there. I just don't know if they're going to vote all the Republicans out come midterms over it. Will Republicans take a hit? Yeah, you could blame them for it, certainly. But I don't know if it means enough. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know if when the economy is good and people have more money in their pocket and unemployment's low, and then you say, well, what about that DACA? Well, it's 700,000 people, or possibly 1.8 million. We have 365 million people.
Or possibly 3 million.
Or possibly 3 million. Again, it's fractions.
It was okay. So a few minutes ago, I fucked up my math and stuff, but it was 1.2. I don't know why I questioned myself. So I was just thinking about it when we said it again. I was well, why the fuck did I 7 million for 1.2? Right. That's fair.
That's fair. Yeah. So we'll have to see where this goes. We got a couple weeks here until it happens. I think that Democrats, first off, I think that to me the biggest thing is the immigration system switching over to the merit system. We have jobs we need to fill now. Americans are not taking STEM positions. They're not doing it. Bring in the people who will. That makes the most fucking sense. Right. And bring in people who are going to bring their businesses over here that already have these degrees, that already have the capital. That's only going to help us. So why be against it? It doesn't make, and especially in a time where there's whenever there's basically no unemployment, it doesn't make any sense to bring in low-skilled workers because we already have a huge plethora of unskilled workers. There's no, you see what I'm saying? There's not enough jobs to fill those positions. We need to fill the jobs at the very high-end degrees, which it doesn't make any fucking sense. I get that you want votes, Democrats. That's fine. That's the game. But let's do something that actually makes sense because why the fuck not?
I don't know, man. All I got from this entire segment was that Mitch wants to make America white.
No thanks. I'm brown.
The world is witnessing the resurgence of a strong and prosperous America. I'm here to deliver a simple message. There has never been a better time to hire, to build, to invest, and to grow in the United States. America is open for business, and we are competitive once again. America is the place to do business. So come to America, where you can innovate, create, and build. The United States will no longer turn a blind eye to unfair economic practices. I will always put America first, just like the leaders of other countries should put their country first also. But America first does not mean America alone.
Well, that was interesting. We'll call them the breaks, right?
That's right.
You don't know what happened in the interim there, but there was
get it.
There was a whole lot of stuff going on, not without the microphone. So let's get into this next segment now. Donald Trump.
Yeah, I thought that was very brave of you to come out with all of that, but yeah, let's continue.
Yeah, right. No, what really happened there was Mitch was just telling me how this was all a charade and he's in a custody battle and this is all satire or something. So
Right.
Mitch was actually on the phone ordering a pumpkin spice latte from and trying to get some Uber driver to pick it up. He's a stark raving
While
liberal,
I'm bleaching my hair.
Yeah, this was all an act. This was all I saw your pussy hat the last time I was over there.
Right.
So anyway,
No.
okay.
None of anything we just talked about was true. But
Right.
That's why.
So let's get in to Trump's trip to was it Davos, Switzerland?
Davos, Switzerland.
For the World Economic Forum, or as you know them, the Illuminati. He
That's right.
had it's interesting to me that he's the first president to go there in, what is it, 18 years or something like that? I guess
Yeah.
Bush was the first one to not attend, and then
Yep.
Obama did not attend either. So I don't
Weird.
I don't really know why that is, and I'd be interested in knowing what their reasoning for not attending and what the difference was before that decision
Well,
was
I
made.
think I know why. Both of those guys just weren't very good at economics.
Maybe,
and they weren't,
so.
you know.
Yeah.
I think Bill Clinton, he knows economics, and he was a business guy. He wasn't in business, but he was very business friendly. Obama, not so much. Bush, not so much. So,
Yeah.
And Trump, clearly very business friendly.
Right.
So makes
Yeah.
sense that he would go.
So I know you've got some articles pulled.
We got quite a few. There's a lot that happened.
Yeah, I watched actually shortly before we started recording a while ago. I had watched his, I think it's like a 28-minute speech that he gave to the room full, or the auditorium full of business leaders and whatnot. And the one thing that I can say about his speech is that Donald Trump is unbelievably different when he is on script than he is. Like,
He's
it was
confident.
like it was almost like agonizing for me to watch it, because it was like, okay, he's not the greatest at reading a teleprompter, and he always puts in his like internal thought bubbles in the mix of the speech, but it's tolerable and like it makes a lot more sense. And it's almost frustrating, because I know then like 5 minutes after you're off stage, you're gonna go say some dumb shit and offend like 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people, or whatever. It's just like, it sucks to watch something that's going decently and then be like, but you're gonna fuck this up. Like, you're gonna leave and say fake news, and like,
Right.
and that's
There's gonna be a
the
soundbite, and that's what they're gonna do. That's what
Right.
they're gonna roll with.
So, but anyway,
Trust me,
I'll
it's
let
much
you.
more frustrating from my perspective, where I agree with most of the stuff he's doing, and then it's just like, oh no, here he comes saying something dumb that the media's
Right.
gonna obsess
In-
about.
Insert foot in mouth. So it's like he always does it. He is his own enemy. So,
Right.
but
So,
anyway, go
Rutter's-
ahead and jump into that.
Yeah. So Reuters basically they dedicated an entire section of their reporting just to Davos and the economic forum there, and they had a bunch of really great articles. So I'm basically gonna read a bunch of these, or skim them and give you the main things out of them, and then we'll kind of discuss it, because there was quite a lot that happened.
Mhm.
So before it even started, it says at Davos, delegates talked down Trump, but they bet big on America. So it says, since Donald Trump won the U.S. presidency, business has been booming for Monaco-based businessman, and I'm going to mess his name up, Manfredi Lefebvre de Orito.
I don't believe you.
I don't believe myself. So it says his privately owned luxury cruise operator in a Silver Sea Cruises registered an immediate pickup in bookings from its main U.S. market, and demand has continued to grow. He said, quote, "Let's face it, we should be grateful to Trump, and he was a delegate at the World Economic Forum. He says the economy is strong and the American consumer is spending. We are the biggest, America is the biggest consumer market. When we have money, we buy other people's shit. It helps everyone." So it says, as world's top policymakers and executives await Trump to address the Davos summit, they are privately voicing disbelief and disgruntlement at his foreign affairs, retreat on economic issues, and colorful tweeting. African leaders feel insulted after Trump was said to have classified their countries as shitholes, a comment he denies making. Latin American leaders are criticizing his retreat from the Pacific-wide trade pact, and some top executives say that they have declined invitations to meet him during the summit. But with the U.S. stock market soaring, Trump's corporate tax cuts padding companies' pockets, and U.S. consumer spending again, companies here are quietly applauding the U.S. president, even as Davos delegates see him as an unwelcome outsider. Quote, "On the values front, it's hard to see the international elites here in Davos applauding Trump. But on the wallet side of things, it may be different. This is a fundamental tension," says Helena Ray, economics professor at London Business School. So it goes on with that article, but that seemed to be the main feel going into it. Is Davos has a lot of these economic leaders. They come here and they talk about different things and talk about their proposals in the world economy, and a lot of them don't like Trump. Mm-hmm. But America's doing pretty well right now, and again, America's the largest economy in the world, hands down. When they're doing well, it does raise the tide, and all boats rise up with it. So it seemed to be kind of the thing is, if you talk to people in these countries, a lot of them are happy with what's going on, and the world economy is increasing and doing better, but they don't like Trump.
Shocker.
And we saw that exactly. Well, we saw that with if you go to what's that guy you like, the prediction guy, Nate Silver?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't take him. Like, I always take everybody with a grain of salt, but I have cited Nate Silver a lot. I think that it's weird because, like, now, if you would have asked me pre-Donald Trump being president, I would be like, yes, Nate Silver, 100%, because he hadn't been wrong. But, like, there were different variables as of late, so now I'm just wary of any poll because there's Donald Trump is like this new.
I found my numbers, by the way. I was cleaning my room
like
yesterday,
if
and
politics,
I found my old predictions.
If politics and polls and predictions are a computer, like Donald Trump is the virus that has just been placed inside of there. And he's just like he's changing shit just like enough to be like, I don't know what to expect anymore. Like this,
I don't know what's gonna happen.
This might pop up. They're like, I know I didn't look that up. So, honey, that wasn't me. That was the virus.
Right. So, but yeah, I think Nate Silver had one of those things where he was, he's polling people, Trump's popularity on social issues, direction of the country, and Trump on the economy. So I looked through all of them, and most of them were pretty much the same. Trump's hanging around 40% approval and about 52% disapproval. On everything else except for the economy. And right after the tax plan took off, it just shot the fuck up. His approval rating, I can't remember exactly what it is, but I sent the chart to you, and it was nuts. So people don't fucking like Trump, but they approve what he's doing with the economy.
Yeah.
And I know that
we've talked about that a bunch of times, and I said that, that it's going to be hard.
It's been frustrating for me
because
this whole year I've been like, trust me, we're doing good. And everyone's like, nah, fuck that.
Well,
fuck
no,
like,
I don't
no,
think, I think most people, if you ask most people how they feel about the economy, they'll tell you good. I would tell you good. I would say that in every economic segment that we've done like this, whether, we were talking about the Paris Climate Accords and how it affected us economically, or the tax plan or whatever, my position had always been like, like, I never wanted to come off as I hate these things, because I don't think that what he's done with the economy is horrible. I like to present that other side and be like, well, what about this? Like, because I think that I don't also like to jump ahead of myself either and be like, well, yeah, the tax plan is great, and we'll see. The one thing that I from this speech that I paid attention to, and like, it still makes me nervous as somebody who is historically more to the left, like his talk about regulations and my knowledge of what happened the last time we deregulated sectors.
Right.
It makes me nervous. Like, it looks good, and I've heard your argument and you've made it a bunch of times that, like, well, these are bad regulations. And if that's true, if they're all bad regulations, good. But it seems like we're cutting a lot of regulations, and
yeah. Well, to be fair, there was a lot of business killing regulations that Obama put.
That's fine, but there
place.
can also, we don't want to create a situation where we start to form bubbles, because we know what happens to bubbles.
Yeah.
And that's what, when I listened to,
he
said a lot about regulation when he was talking about America being open for business, and that is always that's where I hesitate a little bit. I trust you, I don't, more than I trust Trump, because I know you and I don't trust Trump. But like, when you say that, like, oh, here are the individual regulations, like, I tend to not disagree with you on those segments, but when he touts it over and over and over again throughout the course of the 30-minute speech, it gives me pause to go, okay, well, I'm still a little bit nervous about what I don't know what you're talking about.
The reason he's doing that is because, for some reason, Hillary Clinton and the Democrats and all of these people who have put their and Barack Obama didn't understand that you cannot regulate a segment or a sector into growth. That is a that goes against the fundamental laws of economics. Regulation doesn't equal growth. For some reason, they thought it did, and it doesn't. Anytime that you add more regulations and say, if you do this wrong or incorrectly, and we can change it anytime we want, you will be fined. That means that all of infrastructure needs to change. So let's say you have a multi-million-dollar plant that you put together, and then they say, you need to filter out 0.0001% more of a toxin, and you have to refit all of your pipes and everything with different gaskets and seals. That costs fucking money, and if you're gonna get hit with that, you're not going to want to invest. So in accounting and economics and in all of this, you look at long-term planning. So long-term investments, long-term assets, 10 years or plus. And if you're living in an environment where things could just change and you don't know what's happening, you just don't fucking do business here. And that's what we saw happening. So whenever he's saying we're cutting these regulations, that's why we're seeing such a industry boom. And now you're going to couple that with a competitive tax rate of 21% corporate going, which again, the world average corporate tax rate is 20%, pretty competitive, on top of seeing regulations go away. It drives me insane when people are like, "Oh, thanks, Obama." It's like, you don't fucking what? He was the regulator in chief. He loved it. He loved putting regulations in place. This is the main reason why we're seeing companies come back is A, they're not going to get taxed as much, and B, they're not as worried about getting slammed with regulations. And again, it kills business. It makes you shift somewhere else. And again, we're living in a time right now where energy conscious and environmentally conscious businesses is going to be the norm. So people are going to start businesses are going to start self-regulating because it's good for business.
Right. It's interesting that you say that, because I just saw a study. It's been a few weeks, but I just saw a study that said that millennials are going to be like, we're the main purchasing sector
purchasing power
of consumerism, and
they're getting more money.
We are more likely to buy something from someone that is either eco-friendly or is attached to like a charitable cause or something like that.
Exactly.
So yeah, the market is doing that on its own because we are doing that as consumers.
Exactly. And again, we talked about solar energy and things like that, and I think there's a town or a conservative. It ended up being a Republican district or something that's going entirely like solar or something like that, completely energy efficient. It's going to become big business. It's just when you try to force the market pushes back, because people will not, if it's not within their interest, they're not going to go for it. And to sit there and say like, oh, we just need to push towards solar, and we need to, all that does is increase energy costs at the moment. Eventually it won't, but right now it does. So when you do that, businesses go, well, go fuck yourself. We're not going to do it. And then you see you don't bring as much money in. And then oh shit, we just promised people all of these new rights that cost money, and we don't have fucking money to pay for it. So now, oh fuck, we can't do that. It just perpetuates, and it's bad. Quite frankly, it's bad leadership. So that's why, again, when Trump showing up and him really driving home the fact that, hey, we're getting rid of our wasteful regulations, which I think that Obama and the Democrats had every good intention. But sometimes it just doesn't play out in the real world like it does in their head. They think that, yay, we're helping the environment, but you're also hurting your country, and you're kind of the leaders of your country.
Right.
So don't do that.
Yeah, I mean,
so
I'm not going to disagree with you that, like, I mean, I will say, and I think where people kind of get off on the Obama economy is that, like, we did see growth. We did come out of a recession under Barack Obama, but it's not, I don't think that it's easy to argue that it's comparable to what we've seen in 2017 and now 18.
And again,
like, I mean,
yeah, when you look at jobs he created, he didn't create great jobs. He created a lot of low income jobs.
It's hard to argue that you're not setting records daily.
Yeah,
you know,
a little bit.
so
again, things are pretty good right now. I saw another argument today that was like, all the people saying that this is Obama's economy. Didn't you say that Obama was held up by Republicans and wasn't allowed to do anything? So shouldn't you be saying thanks, Republican Congress?
Right. Well, this is like, to be fair,
it's not true. I just think it's funny.
To be fair to this whole argument too, like, everybody has always done this. My grandparents, my entire childhood and adolescence, my grandparents credited, because when I was my adolescence,
thanks Reagan.
Well, my adolescence was the Bush years, and so shit was not going well at that time, right? So I would compare.
Well, it was up until like 2006. Then it was like, oh shit.
Right, but I would compare him to Bill Clinton, and then I would always hear from my grandparents and the conservative side of my family that, like, well, that's Reagan's economy. Bill Clinton didn't know shit about economics. He was mooching off Reagan's economy and Bush's economy. I was just like, okay, you know that's not true though, right? Like,
yeah,
you
Clinton,
guys are dumb.
Clinton knew economics. Now, he did preside over the United States, which was the largest economy during the advent of the internet,
right?
Which obviously which opened up a new market. Like, you want to be able to dominate markets, but innovation is really what key. And America's typically been very good at innovating. We're the forefront of that. Again, we're going to need to do some sort of innovation if we want to continue to grow. We've reached like I said, if we're at full employment, we've reached the bearings of our own economy. Like,
right.
Again, we need to bring in people to fill in those high positions, high learning positions. But then we're kind of done. You got to innovate and bring something else up. China's already going to own solar, so we're not going to get that one.
Right.
So
something that he said during the speech that I want to ask you about, and we haven't actually talked about ahead of time, is he cites a couple times in his speech that black unemployment is the lowest that it's been in in like 17
recorded
years
history.
or recorded history. And then I think he said Hispanics in a 17-year low. Are those numbers, are they used the same way that unemployment numbers are used with, like...
They are used the same way. Everything that I haven't dug into the numbers quite as much, but everything that I have looked into looks legit. It looks like they are just getting hired more now than ever before. That there is more job opportunities in these communities now than it was during the past. Okay. And again, a lot of that has to do with full employment, so there's more competition in the labor market, and at that point, you know, people can start competing for jobs.
So
there's just so many jobs.
You don't question that as a skewed statistic, like you would say that 4% unemployment is?
Yeah, it's all skewed, but again, when we're looking at it, it's going down for the right reason. So it's not really skewed. Again, what my issue was I don't like how they measure unemployment, period, because they only take in the people who are actively searching for a job over the past 4 weeks. So people who just, again, it artificially, whenever the Obama administration was touting, oh, look, unemployment's going down, it was because people were leaving the labor market. They just weren't looking for jobs anymore, or they were just becoming students or staying home or getting on unemployment or whatever, and they were no longer looking. And that's not a good reason that's not something you want to brag about whenever the rate's going down. Now the rate's going down because people are just getting jobs. People have re-entered the job market, but they're being employed, so the rate's lowering. And that's the right way that we need to see it.
I gotcha.
So, yeah, so those numbers are legit. Like, everything that I've seen looks legit. That it's just now is that there's never been a better time to look for work. There's a lot of work right now.
Right.
And I'm seeing, and especially here, I'm not going to say my work's name, but typically there hasn't been a lot of African Americans employed there for whatever reason. And I see them, I constantly see African Americans coming in to interview, and we probably have hired 6 or 7 times what we used to. It's just, I don't know the reason for it. I don't know why, but it's happening, and I'm seeing it firsthand too from where I'm at. So, yeah, it's a good thing.
So, do you
bash it.
Do you think as a result of this trip that we cut any deals, or like what do you?
Let's move to Theresa May, because yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So one of the first things that happened once he got in Davos is he immediately went and talked with Theresa May, who is the Prime Minister of the UK, and it was really good. So I'll read you. There's 2 little articles that I read here that are pretty short, so I'll just read them. This one was titled, "Trump says talks with UK will lead to tremendous rise in trade." U.S. President Donald Trump said on Thursday that discussions underway between the U.S. and Britain would lead to tremendous increase in trade between the 2 countries. Speaking to reporters shortly after a meeting with UK Prime Minister Theresa May during the World Economic Forum in Davos, Trump also said Britain and the U.S. were, quote, on the same wavelength in every respect. May said the special relationship between the 2 countries continued and that a trip by Trump to the UK was under discussion. Now, there's another, I'm going to real quick grab it here because she went on to kind of gush over it. It says, UK-US relations are as strong as ever, British Prime Minister May. Britain's special relationship with the United States is as strong as it has ever been, Prime Minister Theresa May said on Thursday, adding she would discuss that she was discussing Syria, North Korea, and Iran in a meeting with President Donald Trump at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Quote, that special relationship between the UK and America is as strong as it has ever been, May told BBC television. Quote, what I will be talking to Trump about is a whole range of foreign policy areas where we have faced shared challenges and are working together. So basically, we all remember whenever Brexit happened, that damn U.S. tried to meddle with their election.
Did
Brexit
Obama actually
came out
happen,
and said,
though? Have they left?
Yes. They voted to. They had the referendum. They voted for Brexit. It is not taking place, I think, until later this year.
So it's kind of like Israeli or Jerusalem embassy in Jerusalem. It's like, well, we'll do it someday.
Yeah. No, it's going to happen. Like, it actually is going to happen. They just have to, the transition period and all of that. So, and they've repeatedly kept saying, like, no, back out of it. And Theresa May and everyone in the London Parliament and everything had, not London. I keep saying London as the whole of England, but no, England Parliament has said, no, we're staying in it. I know that Ireland does
historian.
Not.
Or geographer.
Yeah.
Or something.
Right. So.
Bad joke.
But if you remember, yeah, Obama came out and tried to influence by saying that if they were going to do Brexit, that they would be in the back of the line or the back of the queue
Nice.
for trade deals. That's what he said. And so that pissed off a bunch of Britonites and a bunch of people, or a bunch of analysts have said that
Brits like grits.
Britons. Yeah. That a lot of analysts have said that might have been what pushed the referendum over. People didn't really know what they were voting for, but they didn't like what Trump said, or not Trump, Obama said about being at the back of the line. So they were like, fuck you, and just voted for it. And then we're like, oh no, what do we do? But regardless, so Trump has been constantly been saying, we're going to put Britain at the front of the line. We want to do a trade deal with them. And if you remember when Brexit happened, I said, I think we're going to see that, because immediately the pound plummeted, and it started bringing a lot of tourism for England, because again, we're a consumer market. We had more money. People immediately started booking flights and going and doing more tourism there because it was cheaper and you could get more out of it. I went to London once and I came with $50. I was a kid, but still, fucking mistake. That turned into like 25 pounds, and then a candy bar was like 5 pounds. I was like, fuck this. I can't afford anything. So it looks like that's what they're doing. They met together, and I think that we are going to see a big trade deal come out where between England and the United States. It's only in both of our interests. And Trump said that throughout the entire Davos trip. He said that, hey, I'm going to try to look for bilateral trade deals as opposed to trilateral or bigger deals like the TTP where there's multiple countries coming in. He goes, listen, we're going to focus in on each country individually, look at how we can both benefit, and then just strike those deals. And I think it's going to start with England, and I think that's only a good thing. So we'll see what actually comes about it. But she seemed very happy with those the conversations, and then it also leads into the other thing that came out of Davos, which is it says at Davos, Canada and Mexico upbeat on NAFTA talks. So this is another trade deal that's been going on for a while here. So it says Canada's foreign minister and Mexico's economic minister struck an upbeat note on Thursday on the outlook for talks with the United States on the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, saying they agreed that the deal needed modernizing. The sixth and penultimate round of negotiations to update NAFTA opened in Montreal on Tuesday, with time running out for Canada and Mexico to settle big differences with U.S. President Donald Trump's administration. Let's see, quote, it's going to be fun, and I hope really useful and productive discussion. So they had about 7 talks, I think, is what they're planning on, with the 7th being the final talk. This is the 6th. And pretty much Trump has just stood firm. He said, no, you guys are getting there's too much trade deficit. If you don't change it, we're going to pull out. Neither Canada or Mexico wants to see it. Mexico in particular. So they've both been taking hard stances as well, but this is the first time that they've been saying, you know what, it actually looks like we might be able to strike a deal here. Mm. So again, just a good thing.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't think like I said, it's hard to look at the economy in January of 2018 and say Trump's doing bad shit there. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. I can't predict it, especially not me, because admittedly, economics isn't my thing. But
I'll give you here. I'll turn you into a expert economist. Just say all else equal, and then whatever you want to have happen happens. It's fucking great.
Oh yeah. But
ceteris paribus solved everything.
Yeah, it's hard to look at, what is going on, at least in the present, and say that it's a bad thing. I don't know where it'll go, and I obviously have some reservations about some things, but this trip is exactly what I expected it to be. Donald Trump doesn't typically do bad when he goes on trips like this, especially when he's talking about our booming economy.
Liberals think he does, which is weird to me.
I don't see it that way. I don't necessarily like all that he says, and I also think that I miss a character like Barack Obama being the one, even if Barack Obama was saying literally everything that Trump was saying, he would deliver it better. So I think in that,
I thought it was a bad order.
Yeah, you're the only one though. I think that
I don't get the praise for it. It's just I don't get it. That's not good.
Yeah, when he's reading look at a State of the Union though. When he's reading off of something, like Trump was reading off of something.
Yeah,
Obama's
he
smoother.
does okay, but off the cuff, he was just as choppy.
And so I
as,
think I think that people that criticize Trump over that, though, what you're getting, and George Bush wasn't good at it either, and I don't know, I just don't to me, that's like petty. If that's the reason you think he did bad because he stumbled over words or he did like whatever, I don't know. To me, like the speeches on the economy, he's always going to be successful at, as long as
that's what he knows.
Now,
the business and the economy.
He's going to be successful as long as the economy is successful. And it was interesting because as I was watching it, I was wondering how different his speech would have been had the government been shut down while he was giving it.
Like probably would have just shit all over the Democrats the whole time.
He probably would have. But I couldn't help but think, like, man, if the government was shut down right now and he was up there touting like the economy and all this shit, not knowing how long the shutdown was going to be and how it could potentially affect the economy at the end of that, like that would it would give this whole different feeling to what I was watching. But you know,
now just like a few more points on Davos before we wrap it up. The other thing that happened was Donald Trump came out and basically was like, "Hey, Palestine, do you like our money? Sit down and do peace talks, or you get none of it."
Yeah, I was gonna save that one,
so
but
we'll see where that goes.
We can jump.
Well, it happened at Davos.
No, I know.
Part of Davos.
But yeah, I think that's a bad. I don't think that's a. You and I had talked about it earlier in the week, and you had called it a money saving technique, and I think that's exactly what it is. Like, that's not the way to negotiate peace talks. That's not. You're not gonna take a bargaining chip
peace talks are going to happen
off the table and then say, now we're going to force diplomacy. Like, we tried that, and we've been in Iraq and Afghanistan ever since. So
yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's forced diplomacy. That's kind of like saying, like, oh, we need to fund the rebels because otherwise, you know, something bad might happen.
Well,
if
you're saying, hey, here's money, sit down and talk, what you're trying to do is force diplomatic discussions. It is forced diplomacy.
Can we agree that it hasn't worked?
No, it's not.
That's what we've been doing. We've been giving them money so that they can do peace talks.
It's never going to work as long as Israel is unwilling to budge. Like, it's not.
I think both sides are unwilling.
It has
to budge.
nothing.
I mean,
I don't know, man. Like, remember,
they still call for all of Israel and all the Israelis to die. Like, that seems like a non-starter.
Right?
To me.
They're also,
you know what I mean?
they're also like a group of like 12 kids versus an armored country that sends missiles into a tiny street.
Yeah,
like,
you consistently downplay that. It's not 12 fucking kids.
I mean, basically.
Right.
Like, I get it. There are terror networks and there's whatever, but like, they're not on the same playing field. Remember, at one point, what Israel has wasn't theirs until the UN came in and fucked it up. So like, yeah, Israel's not willing to budge on their borders, and that's a non-starter, I would think. Like,
right.
You took it.
Well, they both need to. It needs to be a starter because that's what both people want. It's going to need to be a two-state solution. That's the only thing that can. Other that, or it's war. You know?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
those are the options.
I agree with you.
And
I don't think saying, "Hey, here's this money. It's off the table." If you,
well, it hasn't worked.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because that was the idea, wasn't it?
That's
the idea was, here's
thing
some money,
gonna,
come to the table.
Here's what it is, though. All it is a symbolic play to Republicans that want to give a shit about Israel. Like, I'm pretty outspoken about my feelings about Israel. I take Palestine's side. So I
take Israel's only out of our own interest. I don't actually like Israel. I don't actually like Palestine either. I think they're both dicks. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you, but I definitely understand.
I think both. I'll say this. I won't say that they're dicks. I'll say both countries have leaderships which act dickish.
Yeah,
there we go.
I would say that as well. But I think that this doesn't matter whatsoever. If what it does is it hurts Palestinians if the money is off the table. But the second Trump's gone, it's right back. So
we had no problem doing that to North Korea.
Like, yeah, I know, that's fine. But I promise you, the second that Trump is gone, whoever, Republican or Democrat, replaces him, it's gonna be like, yeah, well, we're gonna go back to doing that because that's the easiest way to make friends.
Yeah. Again, friends need to do. It's okay to be like, he's my friend, but you don't want to be the kid who's got the rich parent who just like lets the cool kids walk all over him so that he can say he has friends. That's not a good
I get it, but
policy.
but in that case, then Israel is that kid. So
no, Israel helps us out quite a bit. We get a lot of bang for our buck when it comes to supporting Israel. The problem is that they shouldn't be there. or they really didn't have.
No,
much of an
they should
excuse
be
to
in
there.
Berlin. Come on, Merkel. I'm calling you out. Fix it, because if this is if it's really about World War II, Hitler fucked up. So they should be in fucking Berlin.
Yeah. I'm not going to go that far. I think that both
Right,
countries need to stay
because
exactly where they are.
essentially
They
what I
need
just
to get
said was the
along.
Jews need to leave and go to a different country. That's not what I was saying.
Well, that's how I took it.
Right.
No, it's not how I took it. I get what you're saying. I just, I think that both sides need to come together, and I don't disagree with what Trump's doing. If he's saying, like, hey, this isn't working. We've tried bribing you, and if the bribe's not working, then we're not going to fucking pay you. Then, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Well, you could.
Do I think that it's escalating the situation?
I mean, are you
sure?
It's
I guess.
not, is it a bribe, or is it it's humanitarian
Basically a bribe.
money? It's not a bribe.
Yeah, but it was
predicated
on,
there are people there that are fucking suffering and are not part of the conflict at all. Like, I think that's what the money is intended for. I don't know that. I think calling it a bribe is a step too far.
Yeah. I think that saying that it's for the people is kind of the play, and it makes sense, and it does do a lot of good. But I think the main reason they did it was to bring them to the table for peace talks. It seems like that would be the main reason. But
I don't know.
Yeah,
Historically, pre-Donald Trump, the United States does a lot of humanitarian money spending.
They do. Yeah.
So, I don't know. We would actually have to. I don't know that we could.
What if it works? Let's drive down that hypothetical highway. What if it works?
It won't. But it won't. It's hard to go.
No. You can't say that. I said hypothetically.
I know,
it will,
but it's
so
hard.
It
It's hard to put a hypothetical, go down a hypothetical highway with you on a conflict that has not had any solution for thousands of years, predating the borders.
Yeah.
Our
But
solution.
in my situation, everything that I want has happened. So now what?
Well, I get.
I'm making fun of you because
I was trying to think of what you said the last time it was brought up. I give you a book on reality, the rule books, and say this isn't how it works. So, yeah.
So that was I guess that's everything I had for Davos. I think that I think it was a success. Oh, I guess we should probably talk about the only thing the media talked about, which was him getting booed.
Yeah, I did catch the booze. He needs to knock that shit off. When you're doing good stuff, don't be dumb. Stop making the media is
he
not
said something about the fake media.
One of the
something.
dumbest things that he's ever said, and one of the most harmful things, if it was successful, is that the media is the enemy of the American people. It was one of the dumbest things that he has ever said, and he believes it, and so he does that.
Now let's remember, though, no one likes the media. They pull very fucking low.
But they're not. But nobody
to...
knows shit without the media, so they're not the enemy of the American people.
Yeah.
They're biased. That's fine, but you don't know anything if some other reporter doesn't write it so that we can comment on it.
Yeah,
I
mean, nowadays they just stream it, so.
Yeah.
There's more ways to get around it.
But so yeah, that's what he got booed for, was saying that the
fake media, fake news media.
Yeah, and said as the cameras go off in the back, and then everybody was uncomfortable, and because he's dumb.
That's his typical tactic, because you can't prove that. You can't, you know what I mean? The cameras are facing forward, no cameras facing backward to document the cameras turning off. So every one of his, especially with CNN, he'll be like, oh, look, CNN just turned their cameras up. He says that every time, and I have no fucking clue if it's true or not. Very well might be true. There's no way to prove
it's
it.
It's a Putin play. Let's not fake it.
Well, again, there's no way for you to prove it isn't happening either.
There's not. But that's fine. That's the whole the whole Devin Nunes thing, which we'll get into in a couple minutes. But there's no way to prove it by saying that you can't prove that the Russian collusion didn't happen. That's what you have to do for there to be legal grounds, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. You can't.
You have to prove that it did.
I totally get it, but it's like this. If the Hillary Clinton thing, right? We know that she didn't wipe her fucking hard drive down with a goddamn tell. We know that she should have been under oath when she testified to the FBI. We know, just like we know that Jeff Sessions and Jared Kushner and Donald Trump Jr. and all of them didn't forget what they were being asked about. Steve Bannon could have talked. He didn't talk. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that you have a legal grounds if you don't have the evidence, because you don't have legal grounds if you don't have the evidence. But let's not fucking pretend like things that we see with our eyes are invisible.
That's fine. Again, you still have to prove it. So
I agree with you. I agree. Yeah. But, you know, anyway, that was a side tangent, and we'll get into that whole Nunes thing. But I don't like the argument of, I think that too often there's an argument of, well, you know, just because, I don't know. We'll get into it in the next segment. So
yeah, but I will say this. I think to wrap up Davos, I think that he gave a good speech. I think that even though the elites may not like him, I think the world's pretty happy that, you know, America's doing as well as they are. Whether they give the credit to Trump or not that's up to them. I know I do, but again, not everyone sees it the same way as me.
Right.
And I think that in regards to his speech, I think look for that. I think that was prelude to State of the Union. I think you're going to hear a lot of the same stuff in the State of the Union.
I think you're probably right, and you know, we'll obviously be able to get into that one next week after, because I was wrong. That was the correction that I needed to make. I was wrong because I had said that was this week, and for some reason
I think I did too. I said it's Tuesday, and like it is a Tuesday, not that Tuesday.
Anytime there's big breaking news about this massive government abuse of power...
To hear some news outlets tell it, there is widespread outrage.
So if it turns out that this whole investigation is a politically motivated sham...
Casting doubts on special counsel Robert Mueller's ongoing investigation of possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. President Trump told reporters Wednesday he was looking forward to answering Mueller's questions and said he would do it under oath.
You have a date set, Mr. President?
I don't know. No, I guess they're talking about 2 or 3 weeks, but I would love to do it.
Would you in person?
You know, again, I have to say, subject to my lawyers and all of that, but I would love to do it.
Congressional Republicans are also fanning doubts about the probe. This week, without offering direct evidence, Senator Ron Johnson spoke of corruption and a secret society within the FBI.
I have heard that there were managers, high-level officials of the FBI that were meeting together off-site.
He claimed the society was referred to in text between FBI lawyer Lisa Page and FBI agent Peter Strzok, who was removed from Mueller's team. Today, reporters pursuing Johnson on Capitol Hill asked if the reference could have been a joke.
It's a real possibility.
Republicans also raised warning flags when the FBI said it could not find about 5 months' worth of those texts. But in a letter to Congress today, the Justice Department's internal watchdog said his office had recovered them. There is also the matter of what's being called the Nunes memo. Drafted by aides to House Intelligence Committee Chair Devin Nunes, it reportedly alleges that the FBI abused its powers to surveil the Trump campaign. The specifics of the 4-page document aren't clear because it's classified and only available to members of Congress, despite calls from the right and the left to release it to the public. Republican Congressman Mark Meadows calls its contents shocking.
Part of me wishes that I didn't read it because I don't want to believe that those kinds of things could be happening in this country that I call home and love so much.
The Intelligence Committee's top Democrat, Adam Schiff, says it's pure politics.
They wanted to make a political statement. They wanted to feed the beast on Fox News. They wanted to do what they could to derail the Mueller investigation.
Schiff said committee Democrats would write a memo of their own, a sign that temperatures are still rising on Capitol Hill over an investigation that continues to intensify.
Right, so we went to break and we found Frank. Neat.
Got him all the way.
How's it going, guys? So, God, I try to avoid that word so much now. You caught it, but I try to avoid it. So we typically don't shoot the show at the same time. We've mentioned it before. In fact, more frequently than not, when we're recording the show, it's over the course of a couple days, and so that's the case here. So Frank is available now, so we figured we'd get him in on the tail end of this episode. Right. So,
besides, there was more news for a Monday anyway, so it works out.
Right. So, other than the two big stories that we've already covered with the shutdown and the Davos trip, the other big stories, there was actually a lot last week.
There's a lot of little things going on.
Right. So, one of the big stories last week was that Donald Trump in June had told, White House lawyer Don McGahn to fire special counsel Robert Mueller. So this story blew up like right as Trump was giving his Davos speech. Like in fact, Davos
it took a day or two, because at first it was just MSNBC and CNN that were doing it, and everyone else kind of didn't. And then I guess it got verified, and that's when Reuters and more of these not mainstream, but more respected, I guess, reliable in my eyes. News sources started picking it up as well. But for a day there, it was kind of quiet going into Davos, and then it just kind of picked up.
So, and then basically the report said that Don McGahn threatened to quit over the suggestion of firing.
And then Trump backed down.
And then Trump backed down. So it blew up, and then everybody, CNN and MSNBC and the liberal media was going nuts over this is obstruction of justice, or is this obstruction of justice? So is this important? Do you think it's important? That now Trump always has to do stupid shit, and he, as soon as, I don't want to say as soon as he got off stage, but while he was still in Switzerland, he was already calling it fake news and whatever. And come on, this is one of those moments, like I referred to in the last segment, of let's use common sense over I don't need evidence to know that he probably did that. Yeah. I don't okay, so
now to a degree, because again, I liked waiting back. I didn't give this story the time of day whenever it was just CNN and MSNBC drumming it, but as soon as Reuters picked it up, then I was like, okay, let's take a look at it. So my first initial reaction isn't just to believe what MSNBC is saying.
No, not at all. Not mine either. Yeah. It's actually very far from that.
But when you're seeing it on BBC News or the AP News, it's a little more credible.
I'm not a big fan of BBC News either. I'm going to be honest. I just watched a documentary from the BBC last night on Trump. And this dude just came out of nowhere and was like, so we can definitely see that they just believe their genes are superior to everyone else's. I was like, where the fuck did you get that from?
Well,
so I'm not a big fan of the BBC. I think they've got their own agenda as well. But
maybe,
again,
but one thing on the BBC is not indicative of the entire network either.
No,
remember,
it's
stupid people aren't confined to one geographic location. So you know.
But they might be confined to one network. No, I don't know. But regardless, this wasn't fake news. And he came out, and I know he was saying it was fake news. One of the greatest things was Sean Hannity coming out and being like, it's the failing New York Times that's, putting this out. And then about an hour later, he had to retract it and be like, I guess it's real news. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, that's hilarious soundbite.
Somebody catch this ball. Catch this ball. Go long. Fuck Sean Hannity.
Hilarious.
I don't know if I
does it matter though. I don't think it actually matters though. I mean,
here's why.
When it's all
I think they're jumping when they get to this whole if this is where you're gonna stake your obstruction of justice claim on, I think this is faulty ground to stake it on. I think if he had fired him, you would have more of an argument. But I mean, are we getting to a point? Look, I don't like Donald Trump, and I think that he is shady, and I think some shit, we don't know everything. So do I think that there's collusion? I don't know, but I want to know what I don't know. So there's something there.
Well, remember that in this next segment. Go ahead.
I think...
Yeah, no,
I think the
Go ahead.
liberal argument would be that this is another example of what they would say is a continuing trend of him trying to thwart the investigation, at least in their eyes, by firing Comey and then attempting to fire this man.
I can see it.
I can see it too,
totally
but if
see
he
that point of view.
I buy it way more though if he had actually done it, because the idea here is can you stake a charge like obstruction of justice on basically the fact that he considered something, like because remember,
conspiracy to obstruct justice.
The person that he talked to, and I'm in no way, I think I've made it very evident that I'm in no way Trump defender, because I think most of the time he trips himself up. I'm not going to defend him for doing stupid shit, but the guy that he told to do it was his counsel, and then his counsel obviously advised against it before getting to the point where
he really said he was going to quit. The lawyer, because to me that doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, that's the one part of the story that I just sit there and go, but why? Why would his lawyer be like, I'm gonna fucking quit if you do that? And then why would that scare him so much to be like, oh no, that my operation won't work without this lawyer?
Well, I mean, you've seen a couple of Republicans already come out and said that, if he were to have fired him or try to fire Mueller, that would be the end of the line, and it would be too reminiscent of the Saturday Night Massacre with Nixon. So I understand I could understand his lawyer being like, "This is if you do this, this is an end game. I have to stop you from doing this. I'm out if you do this."
Yeah, I could see it too. Yeah, I could see it being dude, you're about to destroy yourself politically, and this is the only way to get you from doing it. And we don't know what his relationship is with that. I mean, Donald Trump is loyal to the people that he is loyal to. So if this person is somebody who has been successful in other legal battles, or is a personal friend of family personal friend of Donald Trump, family close, I mean, then who knows to me, it's because we don't know enough about Don McGahn and Donald Trump's relationship, then you have to kind of wonder, is there somebody else like Donald Trump Jr. or like Ivanka that Donald Trump is close enough to that if they said, dude, I'm out, that would make him change his mind? Because we know he doesn't change his mind for a lot, but it's not unreasonable to think that if it were Donald Trump Jr. or if it were Ivanka, a family member, that he would then step back.
Well, I also think that
I don't know his relationship with this dude.
Yeah, and it goes to what they're reporting, because I'm seeing different reporting where some articles are saying, no, he directed him to fire Mueller. And then in other articles I'm saying, well, he talked it over as an option. And then he, came back and was like, if you do this, I'm out.
Well,
so.
And then I think the other part.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think the other thing, too, is that for a year, the White House has been saying that Trump has, wouldn't fire Mueller, has not considered it. And then it came out, he had considered it, Even if it never went beyond that, it was just another instance of them.
To me, I don't care about that part.
He steps into a bigger pile of shit when he then lies to the American people about it. We don't like that. That's not cool. Don't lie to us. No matter who you are, whether you're Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or Barack Obama or George Bush, and on and on and on and on. The American people don't really take kindly to being lied to. And when it's obvious that, dude, come on, common sense says that you fucking did that because you're fucking dumb and you do dumb stuff all the time. So
no, not like me, never.
So I don't know. It bugs me on two levels. It bugs me that he considered it, though I think that the reach to obstruction of justice is a reach too far in this case. But it bugs me that then he would lie about it. Just don't say anything about it.
I mean,
that part is annoying. I don't think it's a big deal, though.
What's the argument for it? Why would he end it if he didn't have some ulterior motive? Just because he didn't think it was. I mean, is his argument that he doesn't think there's anything to the Russia story, so then it's just wasting taxpayer dollars? Is that what he's?
Well, to me, it again, if you go back to episode 11 or 12 or something,
You're making up numbers. You don't know.
No, I don't know what it was, but it was some. It was some early episode where we brought it up, and I said, like, I don't know if I trust this guy. And, you know, we gave all my reasons. I'm sure he's thinking the same thing. You know, if you're in a position where you're going, I don't know if this guy's being fair. Is this a witch hunt? Which he seems to think it is. I'm of the opinion that it looks not a witch hunt, but it definitely looks like he's casting a wider net than he probably should and trying to take other people down. You know,
Yeah.
you get
I mean,
there and you
again,
say,
though,
well,
is that
if I have a way to stop this, can I do that? Can I stop him before he just takes down my whole show for no damn reason?
I mean, I
You know
think
what
about
I mean?
it had Bill Clinton tried to fire Ken Starr and prevent, you know, like I think even as a Democrat, I would have said that was too far. You know, you can't fire someone for if Hillary Clinton got to fire someone for investigating her. I would say, yeah, that's a conflict of interest.
Yeah. Me personally, I would have said go for it because I don't think derailing the presidency over a blowjob is a good idea. So regardless of if it happened or not, I would have been like,
we're not talking about a blowjob here. We're talking about an issue with potential sovereignty being broken here.
Like, but are we? But that's the question, though. Are we actually, or is it already pretty much decided that no, there is no Russian interference, and now he's just trying to get people on other little things? Do you stop that? Do you say this is what you originally?
But Mitch, that doesn't matter now because what we're talking about is we're talking about him. If we're talking about this instance, and if we're talking about the fact that they're looking at both Russian collusion and obstruction of justice, the fact, the time that matters, the date that matters is in June when he would have made this decision to impede the investigation. At that time, did we know that there was nothing to Russian collusion? And does it even matter if there is nothing to Russian collusion? The investigation still exists. He can still obstruct the investigation.
And we don't know that there's not anything to Russian collusion because the investigation hasn't wrapped up yet. Mueller has said nothing.
I'll say, that's fine. I'll say if you look at the evidence that's been presented, it doesn't look like there's any sort of Russian collusion. No, there has been lots of evidence put forward, and it's all fallen through. And then also, if you take a look at the text messages between those two, what was it, the lawyer and the guy that was working for the FBI, and then they were working on the Mueller case as well. What were their names? Lisa Page?
Yeah,
and,
Lisa Page and Peter Strzok.
That's it. You got it. Even they go into it saying, I don't know if we want to be on Mueller's team because there's nothing to this Russia thing. So whether you can take them at their word or not, I don't know.
I have never read that. I'll have to try to look up that.
Yeah, we'll have to send it to you because, that was one of the things that they showed on the, the text messages between them. And then, of course, they lost all the text messages and then they got them back. And
if you can send that tonight, I will link to that in this episode.
Okay. I'm sure I can find it because it was.
Yeah, because I've never read that, and that is a pretty. I don't know. I'm surprised that if that's true that I haven't seen that headline a little more.
Yeah, I said no. It tied into the nothing. There. He was like, they were talking about joining Mueller's investigation, and she said, I think he said, is it a waste of time? Because I don't think there's any there. And just that. So again, it's just them musing. It's not like, you know what I mean? But if these guys are plugged into the issue and they don't think there's anything there.
Yeah.
I
guess Mueller could always.
I've seen has been inconclusive at best.
Yeah.
And Mueller it looks like he's just casting this net to try to just take everyone down. I could see where Trump would be like, why am I letting this happen? I have the means to fire him. You know, and then probably his counsel is like, it's the optics, dude. It doesn't matter what you're really trying to do. It looks bad.
It's the same. It's the reason that the only other president to fire a special counsel has been, impeached. So you don't want to follow that example, obviously.
Right.
Yeah. Now, also, he was guilty. So
I mean, honestly, but I mean, they've already found at least 4 instances of crime. So the fact that they found crime,
but again, those are
to investigate.
Yeah, but again, those crimes they found had nothing to do with what they were supposed to be there for. And again, we could argue whether or not that's good or bad that they caught them in those crimes. That's fine, but it has nothing to do with Russia and
and then some guy who hasn't. And then some guy who has not yet joined Mueller's campaign saying there's nothing there. He doesn't know. He's not on the campaign. You can't take that as evidence that there's nothing in there.
Well, he was in the FBI, so he was plugged into the Comey's team.
But there was. Right, but there was no Russian investigation, so he could not have known.
Well, they did.
That there was going to be, especially if his opinion was that there was nothing there. Like he could not have known that that's where that was going to go.
Plus,
again, that's fine. We could take all that with a grain of salt. But bottom line is, I haven't seen anything that suggests that there was Russian collusion. And we have found evidence of other crimes, but they had nothing to do with Russia. And isn't that the point of this? Isn't this supposed to be a Russian probe? And then, you know what I mean? Like, it seems that's where the whole witch hunt thing comes forward.
But again,
it looks like they're not doing that.
When the special counsel was assigned, and I've cited this every time that we've talked about Bob Mueller, when he was assigned for two reasons: Russian collusion, which is what James Comey's job was, and then obstruction of justice, which resulted because of the firing
they haven't found.
Well, I believe it even says like
right.
Well, we can keep saying that maybe, but they're finding. You can see what they've obviously found. They found things with what's his name, Manafort, and they found things with Flynn. Neither of them had to do with obstruction of justice
and
or
Gates
Russian
and
collusion.
Papadopoulos.
Yeah,
Gates and
again,
Papadopoulos.
Gates was part of Manafort. He was his second in command or his right hand man, whatever.
Or a coffee boy if Trump's to be believed.
And Bannon struck a deal which, as we decided in the Flynn segment, means that he's probably got something to say.
I don't think he's got anything.
And we haven't heard what Flynn has to say yet.
Again, I don't think it would have leaked. It would have been done by now.
You can think whatever you want, but until it's out there, we don't know. So
that's fine. It just, again, it looks like it's not going in that direction. It looks like I'm broken into your house to see if you're illegally downloading, and I'm actually just rummaging through your underwear drawer. It has nothing to do with what I'm actually supposed to be there.
I love you've used an example of that. You've used that example like 6 times on the show, and you've changed what happens when you get into the house.
I was about to say, that's a new one, motherfucker. So I didn't use that one before.
This is guys. This is Mitch is just planning a robbery at this point.
Gotta keep it. Gotta evolve. That's how it works.
Right.
But yeah. So again, we can talk till we're blue in the face, but it tends to be every 2 weeks there's a non-story that has to do with Russia that blows up in the news, doesn't go anywhere, and so that's fine. Whatever.
Right.
But,
well, we'll see what happens. Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I'm still not convinced. Because of the obvious cover-up, like I'm not convinced that there's nothing there, and I'm not convinced that the and
I feel like Democrats are.
If it is a witch hunt, then like there's no way it's going to end until they find something. So
exactly, which is why, as Trump, you could probably see like I need to put a stop to this. They're just going to try to take down my presidency. And,
but
that's what they do, though. That's
Trump,
what politics is. Go ask Bill Clinton.
Well, and if that is the scenario, then you're going to lose anyway. Because if you do exert your power to remove that nuisance, then
let me take the keys for a second here, and I'm going to drive us down this hypothetical highway like we often do, and say, what if Hillary Clinton won? And it's the second that she won, Republicans just hardcore drummed up the Benghazi thing, and for whatever stupid reason, everyone decided to believe it. And now it was just 100% Benghazi.
The difference
all the
is
time.
Benghazi was over and Russia isn't.
Yeah, but this is why we're on the hypothetical highway where it isn't. And so I'm saying that in this scenario, it's the same thing. And we're 4 or 5 years down the road, and they keep saying it's about Benghazi, but they keep trying to go after the Clinton Foundation. Do you think she would be within her rights to shut them down?
No.
No,
I don't think someone should be allowed to fire someone who's investigating them.
But if they're not doing their job, and it's pretty fucking clear that they're not. Like,
I mean, here's
first of all, this isn't 5 years after. We're barely a year after this investigation, so we're not to the point.
Yeah, I'm saying right now it looks like it. It's not to that obvious point yet.
Let me put it this way: do you think in 2014 that if Jason Stockley could have fired the investigators looking into him, if it was within his power, would that be the right move? Like, well,
no,
you haven't found anything. It's been 3 years. This is a witch hunt.
No, because they were doing their jobs. They were looking in the right spots.
Right,
they weren't bringing him up on any other charges. They were looking at that particular.
Well, I believe
instance.
Robert Mueller was given authority to look at any crimes committed therein, like look at Russia investigation, look at collusion, and then any crimes associated.
That's kind of the problem. That's the point.
It is a wide net. Like, I agree. So
yeah, that's fucked up. That'd be like giving congressional Republicans, hey, just look at Hillary Clinton in perpetuity and just find something. and you have the authority to just do that forever.
I mean,
What
yeah,
the
but we're bitching about something that this isn't new to Trump though. Like this is something that has affected.
No.
You know, I mean, Clinton went through this, Bush went through. You know, and lots of presidents have had to deal with this investigation.
But I feel like it was always focused, and I feel like this isn't focused.
It
It's
wasn't
just
focused.
get him.
Whitewater turned into a blowjob.
Yeah, that was not. No, it was what was more focused was the way they handled it, because they handled it with more grace than the way Trump has handled this. Because he's acted in such a vindictive way, it makes everyone seem like, it looks like you have something to hide because you're trying so hard to get rid of it.
I wouldn't call Bill Clinton standing up and lying under oath real graceful, but
But at least he fucking lied and he didn't forget everything, right? Like I remember what I just said about lying.
I think
but he also had a
60%
approval rating.
Yeah, again, I think we're splitting hairs on this one. I don't think that either of them were being very graceful given the situations in front of them.
No, not at all. But Clinton didn't try to fire Ken Starr.
Right, yeah, and that and again, I don't think, like to bring us back around to the topic, like I don't think that because he considered or attempted to fire him that is necessarily obstruction of justice. I think had he succeeded, you would have a much better case for that.
Well, he'd have to prove that it was actually a witch hunt, and since he can't do that. And at least from any information that I've seen, doesn't, I've got my own opinions, but there's no smoking gun that's spewing out ducks to where I can point to and say, hey, look, that's the fucking spot right there. So.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. Well, we solved that problem. So moving on into another big story. Let's see. Keep it kind of along the same lines here. Another corruption charge. Today is Monday, the 29th, and Republicans in the House of Representatives were calling for the public release of a classified 4-page memo they say shows a shocking misuse of power by people at the highest levels of the FBI and Department of Justice in relation to the Trump campaign surveillance. Those advocating for the release of the memo, written by California Republican Representative Devin Nunes, have pushed the trending Twitter hashtag release the memo for the cause. In addition to members of Congress, some of the greatest advocates for the document's release have been, shocker, Fox News anchor Sean Hannity and the president's son, Donald Trump Jr. So, and that was a Newsweek piece, by the way. So
Brandon, how do you feel about that?
How do I feel about what? Well, you can release whatever you want as long as you also, here's the problem I have with the way that this situation has been handled in the vote that happened today. The Democrats, who have also had access to whatever, to the same 200 pages or whatever that Devin Nunes is commenting on, they also wrote a memo that completely contradicts whatever the memo that's about to be released says, as you would assume the other side would do in this case. But that one's not going to...
I didn't hear that it contradicted. I heard that it added context. They're saying that Nunes's memo is written deceptively.
Yeah, it's written... It leaves out key facts that make certain things relevant, so it makes it appear worse than it is how I read it.
Which it very well may. I don't know.
It very well does. Come on, are you buying the guy? This guy's story is, I just want it out there because I care about the rule of law. Really? You're the guy who picked up a piece of paper and ran the fuck down to the White House in the 4th hour of this presidency. Fuck you.
Here's why I love this story, because it goes... every single thing that you've been saying is wrapped into this on the other side.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
You have to be for releasing the memo because continually you've said, give me all of the data.
We totally
but on top
should
of
release
it,
the memo.
you've constantly, your argument for so many times throughout this whole Russia thing was no smoke without fire. And then looking at the way that the
problem
FBI,
with this.
Department of Justice are freaking out over this memo, saying you can't release it. You're going off of what you've said before. You'd have to be like, oh, it looks real shady.
No,
without ducks.
I absolutely think that it does look shady. I also think that the next story, we can kind of tie in Andy McCabe's resignation into this story, because I think that makes it look even shadier. But here's where
potentially. I don't know where that's going to swing the needle, because it could go either way on that one.
Here's where I have an issue with the memo, though. That Devin Nunes, his memo is going to be released. The Democrats' memo is not going to be released because Republicans don't have to release it. So that's shady as shit. And
also, keep in mind...
And Devin Nunes didn't have access to what he's commenting on. So...
he's the chairman of the
but they're so highly classified that he has not seen he has seen a portion of the overall evidence.
I have a hard time believing he didn't
citing...
have access to a lot of that information. Again, he's the chairman of the intelligence committee.
The majority of we talked about this last week. The majority of the intelligence community doesn't have access to these documents.
Yeah, but he's the chairman.
Yeah,
I've read of the congressional committee.
I don't know. I don't know what he has access to and what he
literally
doesn't. It would strike me as very odd if he didn't.
All of the congressmen that have been on TV this week talking about this memo have said none of us have seen what he's talking about in here because we're not allowed to. Period.
Is it possible that someone leaked it?
So that's why I have I don't know. Anything's possible, Mitch. Pigs can fly, possibly, but
I don't think they can do that.
I have trouble believing that, and I'm totally for it. I want to read it just as bad as everybody does, but I feel like the temperature that is accompanying Republicans want to push this out, and the fact that it's Devin Nunes who has already had to recuse himself from what he's about to talk about in this memo, and the fact that all of the other congressmen are saying we haven't seen this, we don't have access to that, puts in question what we're about to get. Period.
See, I look at it a different way. To me, I want to read the memo, obviously. I think that Democrats voting on party lines and saying, oh, we don't have access to that. That just, to me, that's standard politics. They do that every time. The Republicans come out and say, oh, there's no way that we could possibly know this. And then they say, oh, no, we definitely do. And then the Republicans come out and say, oh, I know this. And they say, oh, no, there's no way you could know that. To me, it just sounds like the same old shit. The thing that does strike me, though, is how badly the Department of Justice and the FBI don't want this to come out. So that makes me interested.
Well, it's based on information that is still classified.
Right, and their reasoning is that it puts witnesses... It will reveal witnesses. It will harm their investigatory power or their procedures, because going forward, after these people are outed,
can't be used, obviously,
in this memo, then they're not going to get cooperation from witnesses when they're. So yeah, that's a legitimate. That's a Chelsea Manning. Hey, don't release the names of fucking people because bad shit can happen.
Well, again, I think that, but again, it depends on what's in it. If it's actually something that's damning, that, it might be, you get someone's name, but the payoff is huge that it blows this whole thing out of the water, which I don't think it will. But let's say that
because
it does.
it's still just one man's opinion on, we haven't seen the source information. This is just some one man summary of something he read. So either way, this is not going to be undeniable.
That's fine.
It's somebody who's
obviously
how
many times have we
biased
had that with anonymous sources.
Devin Nunes is about as good to the Russian investigation as Jeff Sessions is. So
that's fine, but again, this isn't anything new. We've got both sides that continually show us, anonymous sources, that the sources don't come forward, and everyone makes a big deal out of it because, it could be true. So I think that it's a little unfair, in my opinion, to not treat his with the same that we treated all of the Washington Post and the New York Times.
All I'm saying is don't be surprised when it's everything you expected it to be.
Yeah, I'm taking this with a grain of salt. I'm interested in seeing it, is all I'm saying. I
am too. I agree with that.
Obviously, I don't believe anything that anyone says on this fucking thing. I don't even fucking trust Mueller all the way, because again, this is just too politicized at this point. I'll look at the evidence, and if it actually has evidence that one way or the other, or is something that could corroborate other evidence, we'll take a look at it. But yeah, I do want to see it. I do think that
I agree with you
FBI...
on that. Like I'm not arguing here why we shouldn't see it, because I also would like to see what it is. But I think that like
redact the names, like unless they're absolutely important, redact them. Because that's what Chelsea Manning did. I wanted to
believe
see her,
they've talked
Black
about
Hawk
that already.
Footage. Did they?
I believe that he met with somebody, and they're gonna possibly redact. Like that's what the FBI and the DOJ has been worried about.
Okay,
it's not just an FBI thing. This is Trump's own DOJ. This is Sessions and the Department of Justice saying, "Hey, we also have a problem with you doing this. Let us redact the information. Let us at least coordinate the release of this."
Yeah, and obviously I don't like that Sessions motherfucker. So
yeah,
so I don't give a shit what he says. Fucking don't smoke a weed.
He's not wrong here, though. Like, he's not wrong here.
Well, and it's not necessarily him.
Well,
it's
it
the whole
depends on
Department
what's
of
in
Justice.
Yeah, again, it depends on what's in it. If it's like, oh, don't release the name of one guy who's not even active anymore, and then we don't get any information, I'm not on board for that.
I mean, my prediction, I have a prediction that it's going to be very inflammatory with absolutely nothing to back it up. It's Democrats will think that it's nothing. Republicans will think that it's everything. And it won't have done anything to like switch anybody's mind,
Yeah. Again, that seems to be the central thing with the whole Russia thing and
I
everything
imagine
else. That there's
that
really nothing.
I imagine that it's a Crayola drawing of James Comey with devil horns. That's what I imagine.
You try writing. You try writing a 200-page memo and then come talk to me again. Fucking devil horn picture. Get out of here.
Right? How the fuck is that a memo? That's a research.
That's not
paper.
a memo. Yeah, that's a fucking That's bullshit.
I put a memo on like a half sheet of paper. Like, what are you talking about? Memo. Pick up dry cleaning. I don't actually dry clean my clothes. I don't need to.
So
when did you get fancy on us, Brandon?
What about McCabe then?
What
about McCabe? Andrew McCabe is stepping down. Which way do you think that needle goes?
Here's where I think it'll go. Well, I actually tend to agree that it'll go, or I agree with Frank's last point. I think it'll go the same way, that Democrats will be like, this is nothing, and Republicans will be like, see, this is proof. But
he was scheduled to resign in March.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of think. Now, I'm interested in the timing of this. Like, this is one of these stories where the day that like the FBI is like running over to Congress, being like, "Hey, don't effing vote on this and release this," is the same day that the acting deputy director resigns. Like, the timing is weird, but he was scheduled to he was scheduled to resign or to retire in like the first week of March, and there is an acting FBI director now that has been sworn in for a couple of months. I don't know that his job was necessarily as important as it was.
He was just like, I'm going on vacation until retirement. Like, see ya. I can't remember what they called it, like a terminal vacation or something.
Yeah, it was
ominous.
Where it's like, to get the fuck out. So I don't know if he's just, I'll see you guys. I'm in the Bahamas for the next fucking month and a half.
I don't know. I think it probably has a lot to do with the fact that it was already coming up, and the fact that like there's been a lot.
I already thought that he was
been a lot of pressure on him from Trump.
We saw that interview a long time ago that he gave where he got all flustered. They were like talking to him about Comey, and he was like, did Comey ever leak anything, or did he ever look like he was biased or anything? And he got kind of upset and was like, no, never, he would never do that. And like, that kind of pissed me off, where I was like, just answer the questions, you don't have to get all pissy about everything.
Right.
So I don't know, to me it makes sense that he probably it's clear that he didn't like Trump. So again, when we look at it and you say, is anything actually happening? Trump's not likable, we all know that, but are people that are in establishment positions actively working against him? That's the question. And if they have any sort of proof or even leanings that that's happening, because I think that's one of those things where we talk about common sense. We all kind of feel like that's the way it's going. These guys don't like Trump, and if they can trip him up, they probably will. But is it crossing any lines?
But I mean, this is nothing new. This has been the political game. And to say that people don't like Trump, 60% of the country doesn't like him. You're gonna find, especially in a very liberal DC, most of the people in DC probably don't like him.
Yeah,
that's
it's
nothing
only
new to me.
54%, by the way.
What is it?
So I think that, again, it could go either way. It could be, hey, this guy we might have some evidence that he was working against Trump. I don't know, doing something, and that would bend it towards the Republicans. Or it could be that fucking Donald Trump fired him or pushed him out and got him the fuck out of here, which would bend the needle more towards Democrats. I don't know where this is going to fall. There's no details. He's tight-lipped. No one's talking about this in any sort of substance. I have no fucking clue. I do think the timing's a little bit weird, just kind of like how Trump and Hillary's houses both simultaneously catch on fire. It's a little weird.
Yeah,
a little bit
and
New
one
World
of the
Order
accusers of Roy Moore.
Yeah,
like
Illuminati.
That was all like the same weekend. That was fucking.
I don't know,
weird.
man. I've never had a fire that just spontaneously combusted inside of my house. Where it was just like, oh my goodness, how has this been here?
Just wait, Mitch. If you say something inflammatory, I'm sure they'll get us too.
It only got my laptop. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Right.
So weird.
So all right, let's switch topics real quick into a local story. In an attempt to prove that Missouri, we are Alabama's first cousin. We have we have an awesome story, and I'm probably just gonna read a good portion of this St. Louis Post-Dispatch article because it's good. But this dude does look like he does look like James Bond. Cortland Sykes, 37, is running as a Republican for U.S. Senate seat in Missouri. He is challenging Claire McCaskill, as well as the Republican frontrunner, Attorney General Josh Hawley. So here we go with this Post-Dispatch article. America, meet Cortland Sykes, and don't say we didn't warn you. The fringy U.S. Senate candidate has lately become known to Missourians a little for campaign videos that looked like James Bond parodies. What scant debate he's spawned in the state's political world has centered mainly on whether his coiffed and squinting political persona is genuine or satiric. But now that persona has prompted a flood of outraged national media attention after Sykes reposted this month an anti-feminist screed that he originally sent to the Post-Dispatch last fall. I want to come home to a home-cooked dinner at 6 every night, one that his fiancée fixes and one that I expect one day to have daughters learn to fix after they become traditional homemakers and family wives, Sykes wrote in his statement to the newspaper last fall, in which he recently reposted on his Facebook page. And there's this. I don't buy into radical feminism's crazed definition of modern womanhood. They made it up to suit their own nasty snake-filled heads. And this.
Oh, fuck.
I want daughters to build home-based enterprises and live in homes shared with good husbands, and I don't want them to grow up into career-obsessed banshees who forego home life and children and the happiness of family to become nail-biting, manophobic, hell-bent feminist she-devils. That's amazing.
That's how you really feel.
So
Jesus.
This let's see. This was originally posted. The story originally ran in October, and it didn't generate much controversy then. And the paper goes on to say that's probably because that story and others made it clear that Sykes' out of nowhere candidacy, no experience, no name recognition, no money, and those loopy campaign videos wasn't being taken seriously in Missouri political circles.
But he is now.
Yeah, apparently this is how low we've sunk, guys.
Right. Well, where is
we might want to consider running for senator. If it's this damn easy, I think one of us can get away with it.
I love.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That this article, man, where is it? I know that it basically ends with Okay, but in recent days, via mysterious anonymous of the political internet, the echoes of his comments suddenly were bouncing around such venues as the Washington Post, CBS News, Time, and the Huffington Post, and of course Twitter, which basically melted down this week over the political candidate who at last report had raised a grand total of $500 for his Senate campaign.
Who the fuck gave him $500?
Right. So
David Duke's like, I like this.
Right, I know. That's what I was going to say, the Phelps family. So my guess I don't know. It's Missouri, and like I said, we're not that far from Alabama. Like, it is very possible.
Missouri is awesome. You shut your mouth.
That this is a real candidate, but I'm hoping, based on those ridiculous tweets, that he's not. Although Joe Arpaio, Roy Moore, Chelsea Manning, like, we're kind of in the twilight zone at this point.
Yeah,
a little bit. Oprah's running. No,
and just to point out, Claire McCaskill actually did talk about him. Like, apparently she's taking him serious enough to field questions about it.
I saw her post something today that was like, "Can you fucking believe this?"
She didn't, though. Like, she made it like a non-statement. She was asked about it, and she said, "Look, his statements do not."
She ran an ad against him.
Did she?
Just today I saw it.
Huh. Well, it's interesting that she did that. When she was first asked about it over the weekend, her response was that his comments don't dignify a response. So I'm surprised.
I probably would have gone with that because she basically just gave him advertising with her ad against him.
I wonder.
I
wonder if it was her ad or if it was like a super PAC.
But you got to think, this is McCaskill too. This is what McCaskill does. She takes the safe route until everyone's CNN. If everyone's talking about it, then she obviously has to make a statement because she is, from Missouri. She's got to represent her state. This is just
what she does.
She's cautious.
Yeah. So
I like her.
I mean, I think.
What do you guys think of his chances?
Oh, his chances are none.
Whose chances? This guy's
little
chance?
faith.
No, he's got no chance.
No, I think this is a unanimous fuck you all the way around.
Yeah.
I don't think that he's gonna.
Tain't gonna happen.
No, Josh Hawley. Like, I think if he decides that he ever wants to campaign, that he has a decent chance. But I honestly, I really think that Claire McCaskill is just too smart of a politician. I don't always agree with what she does, and I have been very loud over the last year about not liking most of her personality traits, at least the way that she normally plays the political game, because I think she does do that a lot, where the popular opinion is out there and then she comes out a couple weeks later and it's like, yeah, me too.
Right.
But I mean, I'm watching this campaign and I'm just like, dude, she's gonna win. Like, she's gonna win this because she's smart enough to know how to beat her opponents. So we'll see. It'll be close.
Maybe.
Josh Hawley's probably not going to have a Todd Akin moment, but Republicans seem to have Todd Akin moments. So, anything is possible.
Yep, we'll have to find out.
So, last story is a lighthearted one, but it's so awesome for me personally. Like, it's not. I've brought up Eminem more on this show than I think that I've thought or talked about Eminem in like the last.
Just for the record, I don't like Eminem and I don't listen to Eminem, so I have no fucking clue. Like, every time you guys start talking about Eminem, I'm just like, I don't know.
Here's what's about to happen. The story isn't about Eminem. It's about Jay-Z. But what it's about is the fact
about Jay-Z.
that Jay-Z was on Van Jones' show and was talking about how Donald Trump's comments about shithole countries was very hurtful and that, it was about the tone and whatever. And then Donald Trump tweeted that somebody tell Jay-Z that black unemployment numbers are the lowest ever. And the reason that I bring up Eminem is because for 6 months, this Eminem has been egging Donald Trump on to say something so that he can get some motivation to not write a shit ass album that he put out 3 weeks ago. and Donald Trump just happens to turn on CNN and is like, you know what? I want some beef with this other rapper. Like, that's amazing. Eminem's career is probably over as a result. And we already talked. You
heard it here first, folks.
I'm just gonna run through that sentence like it's fact. But we talked about it earlier that unemployment numbers that's a moreover a true statement that black unemployment numbers are at a historic low. But there is an article that I can actually link to that we can link to in the comments, and it kind of goes over the breakdown still of inequality between the races. So yes, it's a true statement. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah. And there's a graph there that points out that this has been improving since 2011. So Trump can try to take all the credit he wants for it, but this has been an overreaching trend that he just happened to get elected into. So it's not like he can sit there and say, I'm the black man's best friend, because that's not, that's really not the way.
He released what's the word I'm looking for? He allowed the market to be, the job market to be the way that it is, which allowed more jobs to be able to bring more people in and employ more people.
Yeah, but
if he wanted to say that, that's fine. But the way he's saying it is more like, I'm the best president for black people of all time.
Well, he said that black unemployment's at an all-time low, and it is.
It is, but that's a trend started from 2011 and from our predecessor president, not him. He cannot take 100% of the claim, and that's what he's trying to do.
I don't know if he's trying to take 100%. I think that it sounds like he's just stating the fact that, hey, this is what we've been doing, and it's working for all communities.
Right, and I don't disagree with his statement because it's factually correct. I just think but I do agree with Frank that there is he's using it the way that Frank is saying that he's using it. In my opinion, he is using it so as to be like, I am what's good for the black community, but this was already happening, and there is evidence to show that this was already happening. And that brings up another point, that the Republicans like to always challenge Barack Obama's legacy with, what did you do for the black community? Well, here's some evidence that he did some things for the black community.
And we'll put the graphs in the show notes, and you can look for yourself and decide whatever you think. But I'm just saying, that's just my personal take on it. Also, don't pick a rap battle with Jay-Z. Like, he's got time on his hands to sit there and work on a new album, man. You have to run the country. He's gonna win.
Yeah.
Plus, he can put Queen Bee on that shit, and it's over.
Yeah.
Don't take on Beyonce, man. Come on.
Yeah. So I don't give a shit about Beyonce or Jay-Z. I don't give a shit. To me, every time I see them, they just seem like they're not saying, it's like a Kim Kardashian thing.
Well, then you would never be nominated for the Democratic Party's.
Oh dang! What am I gonna do?
Because if you if you don't give a shit about what Jay-Z thinks, you are not a friend of the Democratic Party. So
sorry, I don't.
Or
when it goes back to your, and then going, well, yeah, of course not. Although I did like their college incentive that they put forward, that was pretty good. But I think going back to your graph, I don't give a fuck either about the unemployment rates for any individual race. I think look at the accumulated wealth. That's a better graph to look at. Pull that one up and see, did wealth for African Americans grow under Obama, or did they just get sign spinning jobs and didn't go anywhere with the money that they were making? Or that, because again, it's easy to just say, hey, look, we're getting more jobs, but are they good jobs? And if they're not good jobs, is that something you really want to take credit for? So those are the things that I think we need to look at.
I mean, I think when you're talking to somebody who's unemployed, you want to take credit for a job, period.
Yeah, but is it a dead-end job? I mean, that's the thing.
Is a dead-end job better than no job?
No, it's not, because it stagnates you. It keeps you. It actually stifles your forward mobility. It's a dead-end job. It's not going anywhere.
People trying to pay their bills in that moment would disagree with you.
Yeah. But they're not going to be able to pay their bills because
they're not going to be able to pay their bills if they don't have a job.
Well, of course, you're just supposed to work and get another. You're supposed to go into training programs, which is what they want us to do. Is if you want to get onto unemployment benefits,
that's
you need
fantastic.
To be trained into a new career.
That's fantastic if you live in a place where there's a training facility. But if you live in the country and you don't own a car and your only option is a shit job, you better take that shit job, because the only other option is living on the streets. Like it's where you live, and opportunity plays a big role into it. Like it's easy
right
to
now
say,
we're
go
dealing
get
with
a
a
better
lot of
job,
opportunity.
but it's a lot harder to do that.
Well, we're at full employment, so there are lots of good jobs out there to be had. So it isn't that hard to go find a job right now. Maybe at a different time, yeah, I could see it. But right now, there's a lot of jobs out there. And wages are going up because they're trying to bring in as many people as they can. So again, a dead-end job isn't a good job. You don't want to get into that because you don't have any upward mobility. That's how we keep the middle class growing, and that's how we keep our economy growing. There needs to be a good level of upward mobility. That's what it's all about. So if you just sit there and say, "Hey, look how low my unemployment rate is," I don't really care. Show me what the mobility rate is. Show me what the accumulated wealth rate is. Right? Is that going up? Because if it's not, we're not going anywhere.
I don't disagree with any of those points, but I think that you're both right. Because I think that there is a long-term way to look at it, which is the way that you're looking at it, and I think that there is a short-term way of looking at it, which is the way that and a situational way of looking at it, which is the way that
you calling me short-sighted?
And no, no.
I know.
I think he did.
Shit.
But I don't think either idea is wrong. I just think that it's that you can't have it all. Donald Trump can't.
Well, that's the problem with the Democratic Party is they want to just give everyone the shittiest job that doesn't do anything, and then just raise their wages up to $15.
Right,
you can't do that.
No, I understand that, but situationally, a job is better than no job. If I'm having a kid in 9 months,
the economist part of me is upset with you for saying that.
That's
There's
fine.
a thing called opportunity cost, people.
Right? Yeah, that's all great. But again, if that's
the difference between accounting and economics.
If you have bills to pay now, you need money now. You can then start thinking later about
certainly true.
How to move into a better job. I agree. We want better jobs than shit jobs. I agree with you.
Oh, definitely.
But if there is only an availability to shit jobs, it's better than no job. And that's all I meant by, yeah, you do want to take credit for that, because to that guy who was out of work for 6 months or whatever, that meant something. Whether it means something to you in the grand scheme of economics, that's fine. It meant something to him, and that's what matters in his life. So you can't just write that off.
No, I can't. Again, I still fundamentally disagree with ed job is better than no job, because I just think that if you look at the numbers, not
But I just explained to you why that's true.
I get it. I get how you're presenting it, but it's also not true. If you're gonna in the long term detriment your life by taking this shitty job where you replace a piece of wood and you're standing on the side of the road and you don't go anywhere and you're just living paycheck to paycheck, and then you get tied into all these benefits and there's no upward mobility, you're worse off than if you just take a risk.
But
and you just go out there and try to find something and you move.
But the situation matters, Mitch, because if the difference is you're not wrong either. But if I'm faced with having to pay for a surgery, a life-saving surgery for a family, I'm probably not going to do that on a shit job anyway. But if you know what I mean? If I have to pay something now that has to be done, if I have to buy my insulin or whatever, then you can't say that you should have waited because upward mobility. Fuck that! I needed to live.
Again, that's a fine example. I think a big problem we're having with American economics right now, and with our mindset for millennials and the next generation.
We vote for celebrities.
What is it? No, is it the previous generations as well? People don't want to move. For whatever reason, they don't want to go anywhere. So even if they're stagnated, if they're not doing anything, where before people would be like, fuck it, I'm on the boat. I'm going to a new country. That's where the opportunity is at. Even if they know that they're down, 35 miles into town is where opportunities are, they don't want to move. It's weird. I saw a whole bunch of this information and different graphs on it and how it's really hurting our economy because people just aren't willing to take risks. They're comfortable
This generation grew up in the worst recession since the Great Depression. Of
yeah,
course
you also have
to
to.
take risks.
We grew
you
up
also have to point out that
the best economic times.
Your rent is now, I think it's like 40% of most incomes goes towards rent, where it used to be 10%. Like it is, there's other reasons why people don't want to move, just beyond generational, thinking.
Well, back in the day too. I mean, they would just travel. They wouldn't have houses, they wouldn't have rent, they wouldn't have jobs when they were doing it, but they do work along the way. And there are jobs out there that still offer that, but people just don't want to do them. They don't want to, and there's not as many either. There's not as many manufacturing jobs, and there's not many pass-throughs because of the regulations that have gone through it. You can't just take a guy off the street, standing at Home Depot and say, hey, do you want to work? I got some landscaping to do. Let's go. Let's get it done. Most of the time you can't do that because you've got laws now. So there's a lot of these little things that kind of, build into it. But I think that when it comes to jobs, we're at a good spot. There's really no reason to sit around and say, hey, let's not look for a better job if you're not making ends meet. If you're making ends meet, then fine. That's great. Try to move up in your job. But if you're not making ends meet, then you might want to start looking.
Right. And this segment, this topic took on a totally different path than I expected it to. But at the end of the day, what Trump tweeted at Jay-Z has nothing to do with what Jay-Z said in the first place. Right?
Nah, that's fine.
I mean,
I don't care what Jay-Z says.
What my takeaway from this?
I think
Jay-Z runs New York.
It's also, I think it's also the whole thing, like, don't claim you don't watch a lot of TV and then tweet at a guy who was just on TV talking about you.
Like literally every day. Every day.
Yeah.
I don't know how you don't believe that he watches 8 hours of TV.
Come on, you have to know that as soon as it's blowing up on Twitter, someone has tweeted him, hey, can you check out this shit they're saying about you or whatnot?
And apparently he has the time to fucking do it.
Come on, it is a likely story.
A likely story, yeah, and it's cold here because not Russia, right? Yeah, okay.
Dude, just to point this out, I like Jay-Z, I like rap, and I didn't even know Jay-Z was on that talk show talking about Trump until Trump tweeted at him.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if Jay-Z starts talking about either of you, someone is going to hit you up and let you know.
But man, if I'm the president, hopefully I would be too busy to be like, the president shouldn't give a damn what Jay-Z says.
And if I'm President Trump, then by that logic, somebody's hitting me up literally every second to be like, did you hear that they're talking about you? Like, you're the fucking president, duh.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's end it with duh. So... on that note, I do want to say real quick before we end this that these next couple episodes might come out. They might be a little bit later. I'm not 100% sure right now we're in the middle of because I'm so close, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, so close to having my second son. He will be here in just a couple of weeks, and my time is gonna be crazy at just how I fit in this show and editing and all that stuff. So right now we're in the process of trying to transition the producing aspect of the show over to Frank. So like I'm kind of showing him the ropes, and so I'm going to try to pass this torch off. So that being said, I guarantee you there will be a learning curve because there still is for me. And so we're going to try to get them out as fast as possible. And, I'll still... we'll get them. There will still be one every week. I just cannot promise how quickly... they're not going to be every Tuesday. I promise you that. So, but anyway,
we'll see. I have no life.
Okay, well, maybe they will. Actually, what I would imagine will happen at some point is they'll probably get a little bit better on timing, because like a big part of the timing issue now is the fact that there are times when I should be editing the show, but instead I got to be dad, which is obviously the more responsible decision to make in that situation. So, I kind of choose that one and take care of my son. But anyway,
yep.
So
I get to be irresponsible and choose passion.
Right. So anyway, on that note, we'll call it a week. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at TDAP 2017. Shows will be available weekly on iTunes, Google Play, and wherever podcasts are found. And with that, here it is, your alternative fact of the week. Thanks.
Now, tonight, for example, they're trying to change the story. At this hour, the New York Times is trying to distract you. They have a story that Trump wanted Mueller fired sometime last June, and our sources, and I've checked in with many of them, they're not confirming that tonight. And the president's attorney dismissed the story and says, no comment, we're not going there. And how many times has the New York Times and others gotten it wrong? All right, so we have sources tonight just confirming to Ed Henry that, maybe Donald Trump wanted to fire the special counsel for conflict. Does he not have the right to raise those questions? We'll deal with this tomorrow night.